Councillor Casper needs you, David.
Doesn't work.
You don't have a mouse with you?
No, I lost it.
Oh, okay. Stuck. I don't know what you're doing. I can run and get you a mouse.
Easy peasy.
2 minutes.
Okay.
Highlight.
Is where? Do that real quick.
Oh, that looked good.
David, there's one in this drawer. You want to see if it works?
Public hearing.
Yeah,
That should be no problem.
let's do that.
But you know, we don't have a lot of stuff to really, except the broadband. It's just gonna be a,
There you go. Where's your USB ports?
it's a mess.
Well, there is one on that side. This
Section,
occupied.
we're sending this. That's gonna be quick. This
Oh,
is,
it's okay.
this is getting cold. So, we got these two things to talk about here, so maybe just.
This is very long minutes. Bingo.
All right, it's ready?
Well, it should take a second. Go ahead, show it.
Personal opinion. These are not.
Well, except this one is under.
I know, right? That's good.
Kind of called.
Do I do this with the mouse so I can touch it? Well,
I'm just thinking point.
Just send us an email.
Okay.
We'll get you. We've got loads of mice.
Okay.
It's okay.
Yeah.
We probably have a wireless one somewhere.
that's fine. I'll use this till tomorrow.
Yeah.
Just let me know, Kathy, we're apparently on the air.
You ready? Yeah, fine.
On record.
Good evening, welcome to the City of Lincoln City Council meeting for Monday, April 9th at 6:05-ish p.m. If you wish to speak on an agenda or non-agenda item, please sign up at the sheet near the entrance door to the council chambers. You'll be called to speak during the public comment section. Comments or testimony on agenda items listed under public hearing, public comment will be taken at that time. Roll call, please.
Don Williams.
Here.
Dick Anderson.
Yes.
Riley Hoagland.
Here.
Deanna Hinton.
Oh, sorry, here?
Judy Casper.
Here.
And Susan Walke.
Here.
Thank you. Would you please all stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. In case you're wondering, we're having a little technical difficulties. David Twiggs helping us get through this. He's not a new member of the council. He is, but we won't give him a chair yet. Okay, consent agenda, intergovernmental agreement for county building official, Oregon Liquor Control Commission, application for full on-premises commercial sales, tequila blue agave, Oregon Liquor Control Commission license application for limited on-premises sales, Copper Hill LLC DBA Copper Hill Pizza Company, regular meeting, minutes of joint meeting with Confederated Tribes of Siletz, July 27, 2017, 6 p.m., and regular meeting minutes of the regular meeting, March 26, 2018, 6 p.m.
Your Honor, I move to approve the consent agenda.
Someone say
Mr.
second?
Mayor, if I could, before we do that, remove number 1,
Okay.
and then I'd second the motion.
Right.
Okay, so if you'd restate the motion.
I move to approve consent agenda items 2, 3, 4, and 5.
A second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion?
I just have this to say, I did forward Kathy some typos
Yes,
on the minutes.
Nothing
Nothing
substantial in my typos.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Number 1.
Mr. Mayor, I wonder if we could get some more information on this interim agreement. It seems, I'm wondering about what the cost of the city is and the impact on time and process. It seems like another layer, and wondered if we're able to, charge our state government, given their wisdom.
Right.
Who would you care to hear from on that?
Somebody who can tell me more about it.
Well, pick a number.
Possibly Mr.
Ron, where do we
Appicello?
start?
I think we're gonna.
Microphone?
Our attorney to discuss it. Probably the thing that you want to know more than anything is what's it gonna cost us. I don't have a number for you. All I have is that the county is currently, at least the county council is, and his staff are currently willing to bring this forward to the county. Again, this has to do with what was a bill in the legislature that failed, and what is now a position taken by the Building Codes Division that third parties cannot legally perform these services for cities. They're basing it on some opinions that they have, which I believe the League of Oregon Cities believe are in error. But until it ends up in litigation, we just like to cover ourselves. So I can't give you a dollar amount. I did not hear back from the county council. He knew I was putting it on this agenda. He did say he had set up the meeting to discuss it with his staff and go over it. So if he gives me any significant changes, I'll have to bring it back to you. But I can't tell you what the dollar amount is for the building official services.
Could-
So, I guess, though, does that, Mr. Mayor, does that mean that we have just disengaged with our contract with the existing building?
No, this actually, we have a contract with a third party.
Right.
But what the county is at least proposing, what we're proposing here is that the county provide oversight to get us past this objection that the Building Codes Division is saying they have with third-party contractors. So we basically would have oversight by the county.
Explain what that means.
Well,
You just approve the inspector?
they're basically providing review and oversight of the work of the third-party contractor because they have an employee who's the building official, and the Building Codes Division is taking the position you can't have contractors do this building official work. So if we can, through an intergovernmental agreement, share personnel that another jurisdiction has, and so they indicated a willingness to cover us in this regard.
I'm sorry, you had asked. You go ahead and I'll come with my
Okay,
questions.
I just have a couple of things. One is, did you just say that we could continue using our third party, our hired contracted inspector?
It's definitely working
With
on getting
the over-
feedback.
We're going to hold up, are we?
Yes.
With the oversight?
We, in fact, this agreement, the intergovernmental agreement, was reviewed by our third-party contractor.
And, okay, I just had a couple of things. So, my problem is that, okay, we're still going to be using our same inspector, just with paying for this oversight that we don't provide, and
If they bill us.
if they bill us. And for what is the length of time that we are going into this IGA?
Well, once the litigation ensues, I imagine it'll be based on when the outcome of that is out. But I have a 5-year term on here. We can, of course, there's a termination clause. I forget the number of days, but
Richard, can I have you get the microphone?
Okay, and I understand there's quite a few cities in our situation that are entering
Yes.
that litigation. Thank you.
we have a 5-year term in here and a 60-day termination clause.
Are you finished? Okay, then my question is, and maybe this is really dumb, we won't have to have a county person on site in addition to someone, a contracted person?
That's correct.
That would not be part of the oversight?
We're having oversight, but he's not going to come here and perform all the same services, no.
My concern is slowing down the processes of getting inspections done.
Yes.
So, but we have added another layer, so the inspector would have to come in, do his or her job, then forward it to the county to say yes or no, and then back again?
Yeah, I think
That's
as a
gonna help a
practical
lot.
matter, there's going to be much more email communication between our staff and the county.
Okay. And this didn't have anything to do with, I thought I read something about how these were paid for. Wasn't there some issue with TRT money and,
No.
maybe that was another jurisdiction. I could have swore there's something about building inspectors and now they get paid.
No, this is only because the Building Codes Division is taking a position that third-party contractors cannot perform the service. We're not the only city facing this. Most of the coastal cities do not have employees that are building inspectors. The legislation which proposed to require that we have employees that are building inspectors did not survive the Senate. But however, the Building Codes Division is still persisting with their interpretation. So until that's rectified, we're just covering ourselves.
Okay.
So, Mr. Mayor, again, what I'm hearing you say is we really don't have a choice as an abundance of caution. That's what we're doing this for.
Yeah.
And I guess I find it difficult that the county couldn't just deputize one of our, current contractors to be a deputy county official. And they must have an over surplus of personnel where they can do all this stuff. Maybe,
I think that this was the least onerous option, so.
Yes, please.
I just want to thank the city attorney for bringing this forward in such a timely manner.
Absolutely, appreciate it. Ron, you have anything on that? I don't. All right.
I'd move to approve intergovernmental agreement for county building official.
Second?
Motion to second, discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, do I just do roll call, or do you need just voice? Roll call, please.
Hinton,
Yes.
Casper,
Yes.
Walke,
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes, but not
And Hoagland.
liking it. Yes.
and Hoagland.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, and I'm so sorry, I jumped ahead of something. I need to get council's okey-dokey on. We had, under special order of business J9, that's been asked to be removed from the agenda, heating and ventilation replacement. And with no objection? Okay. And then the public interview and appointment to Budget Committee, J12. Would there be any objection to moving that? We can either put it up right after F6, the Arbor Day proclamation, or immediately before municipal broadband. I'm thinking,
After 6.
6, yeah.
yeah, I'm thinking that's a natural break right there. So, Ron? Okay, so right after F6. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, if we could
Yes.
just take a 5-minute break before it so we can set up a table to have all of the applicants sit at the
Perfect.
table. We are setting up with a portable mic.
Perfect, thank you, appreciate that. Okay, back to business. Comments from citizens present on agenda, non-agenda items. This is an opportunity for members of the audience to bring to the council's attention any item not listed on the agenda for public hearing or public comment. Comments are limited to 5 minutes per citizen, and the city recorder will use the light system. Excuse me. Speakers may not yield their times to others, and as a general rule, this is not a time for exchange of questions. At the conclusion of this agenda item, a councilor may discuss or raise questions regarding an item presented by the citizen. The mayor has the authority to reduce the time allowed for comment in accordance with the numbers of persons present and signed up to speak. All right. Okay, that's my sister's place. We're going to do that later, right? Yes. Okay. And that's all. Oh, all under E. I'm confused. Katie, were you here to talk about the My Sister's Place too? Okay, come on forward then, please. Just give us your name.
My name is Katie Jacobson.
Thank you.
I am running for Lincoln County Commissioner, position 3, and I just was here today to discuss all of that with you. I grew up here in Lincoln County. I was born and raised here. I have a bachelor's degree in natural resources from OSU and a master's degree in coastal zone management. I've spent the last 15 years working for Oregon State University on issues relating to commercial fisheries and coastal communities as a whole. I've decided to run for Lincoln County Commissioner because I feel it is time for a fresh perspective, excuse me, battling a head cold here, for a fresh perspective on county leadership and on the, many of the county issues that we have here that we're dealing with. I am 20 years younger than the youngest county commissioner we currently have, and I experience this county very, very differently than a lot of the other current leadership that we have. I'm also a foster parent. And because of that, I deal with a lot of the social services issues we have in this county through the children that show up on my doorstep. If elected, I really want to build a strong relationship with Lincoln City, both the city of Lincoln City and the citizens here. That's why I'm sort of here today, to sort of just introduce myself and start that relationship going. I know that I'm not from Lincoln City and that I do not live in Lincoln City, but I've worked very closely with communities all across the state on issues for the last 15 years, and I know that strong partnership is possible. And so if anyone wants to learn more about me or my campaign, you can do that by going to my Facebook page, which is Elect Katie Jacobson, and Katie is spelled Kaety, and Jacobson is Jacobson. And my website is also electkatyjacobson.com. Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it. Thanks for your willingness to serve. I'm so sorry. Jay, that's going to be the I'm so sorry. Marl? Marley McFarland? Oh, an applicant. Okay, well, I saw that, but it's still on here. Okay, and then I'm sorry, I've got, I don't know if that's scratched out, M.O.? Something about the consent agenda. Okay, I'm sorry. All I got is two little initials with scratches through them. Russell Baldwin. That's a name I can read.
Thank you very much.
Yep. Just give us your name, keep the microphone close, it moves freely. There you go.
Sure, thank you. So my name is Russ Baldwin, and I do also have a Facebook page. I'm running for Circuit Court, and there it went. I'm running for Circuit Court Position 3 in Newport, and a little bit of my background. I have a Bachelor's of Arts degree in psychology with a chemistry minor. I'm 55 years old. I've been practicing in Lincoln County now for 30 years. Actually, I practice law across the state. But my practice is home-based here in Lincoln City. And I just love Lincoln County. And the reason why I'm running for Circuit Court Judge is, well, there are several reasons. First, I want to use my degree in psychology to address some of the mental health issues that the courts have been confronted with, particularly cases involving ADHD and autism. These are concerns that I don't think have been really adequately addressed in the court system, and I'd like to use my experience in psychology to do that. The other thing is, it's my belief and my personal experience that civil cases in the Lincoln County Court, similar to what's happening statewide, are just not being effectively resolved in a timely manner. And when they are resolved, it's also my belief that oftentimes civil litigants leave not understanding what has happened. Because oftentimes, even if a litigant or a litigant's attorney requests special findings of fact and conclusions of law, it's been my experience, particularly here in Lincoln County, but not exclusively in Lincoln County, that the judges just refuse to do that. And I would not, if you elect me to Circuit Court, when you leave, you'll understand my reasoning, because I will show you my work. I will explain how I have applied statute or case law to a given fact pattern. And so when you leave, you'll know what has happened. I also want to address, it's been my experience as a litigator that oftentimes, even in the civil arena, that is when people are trying to address conflicts that they have over, let's say, child custody, divorce, real property issues, collection, property, this kind of thing. Oftentimes, litigants are fearful. They're just fearful of what might happen. They're worried that maybe the case will go the other way and the judge might award a 6-figure attorney fee judgment against them. That should not happen, and I will use my legal talent to effectively address all matters that come before me. I will follow Oregon statute, ORS 1.050, and make sure that every question presented to me that's submitted will be resolved, will be answered within the 3-month maximum that is allowed by statute. The way the statute works, if a judge doesn't do that, the state court administrator is not supposed to pay the salary of that judge. That's not happening. That's not the situation just here in Lincoln County, but Lincoln County is what I'm most familiar with. This is an issue that has been raised in the Oregon State Bar Bulletin about 1.5 years ago. We need to have, when litigants, particularly when litigants are paying for their lawyer, they need to have their matters resolved in a timely manner, and they need to understand what has happened. Otherwise, as I'm sure you can understand, if you're paying a lawyer and it never gets resolved, the way it gets resolved is one or both parties run out of money, and then they don't end up with a decree of dissolution from the circuit court. They instead end up with a bankruptcy judgment. That's just what happens, and that needs to stop. We need to address people's problems in the civil arena in a timely manner, and we need to do it in a way that people understand what has happened, and that should also reduce appeals. So I ask for your vote, and I encourage everyone to please vote in the May 15 primary. Again, I'm Russ Baldwin, and I'm running for circuit court. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Again, thank you for running. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm going to just, folks from the Blue Agave here, did you want to say something? Because we've approved your application, so you're good to go. But if you want to come up and say something, okay, yep, you're good to go. All right, thanks. And why don't you sitting here all night waiting on us? We're done.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All right. Oh, anyone who did not sign up or did not call wish to speak at this time? Seeing none. And folks, I want to just remind everyone in the audience, we hear everything, and the side conversations are really distracting, so please step on out in the hall if you want to share a thought, okay? Appreciate it. All right, we are zipping right along. We are presentations, Arbor Day proclamation to continue as designated Tree City USA and Tree City USA 10-year presentation made by Oregon Department of Forestry.
Hello, Mayor and City Council. We'll take turns. Thank you for this opportunity. Jeannie Sprague, Lincoln City Parks and Recreation Director.
Katie Lampa with the Oregon Department of Forestry.
Camilla Arlett, Parks and Rec Board member.
Welcome.
First off, I understand that you had a really wonderful Arbor Day celebration on Saturday, and a few of you were there, and I thank you for going to that. I also understand that there's this really special Sitka spruce. I would like to learn a little bit more about that tree. But I'm here today because you have, Lincoln City has now received their 10th year award as a Tree City USA. Very thrilled to be here to congratulate you all on that. This was an award that you received for activities done in 2017, and it's an accomplishment 63 Oregon communities and over 5,500 communities nationwide have share.
The Tree City USA Award Program is sponsored by the Arbor Day Foundation and administered in Oregon by the Oregon Department of Forestry, specifically the Urban and Community Forestry Assistance Program. Tree City USA was designed to encourage better care of the nation's community forests by awarding recognition to communities that meet 4 basic standards of a good tree care program. And those 4 standards are a tree board or department, which I understand is quite busy, a tree care ordinance, a community forestry program with an annual budget of at least $2 per capita, which is something also you can get from in-kind and donations, and an Arbor Day observation, which was Saturday, and a proclamation, which I understand you're going to be reading later on. Arbor Day is a nationally celebrated observance that encourages planting and caring of trees, and it was founded by J. Sterling Morton in Nebraska in 1872. National Arbor Day is celebrated each year on the last Friday in April. We like to do things a little differently here in Oregon. And so we celebrate it in Oregon as a week, and that is during the first full calendar in April. Every state does have an Arbor Day, but I think we're the only ones that have a week. I'd like to quote Mr. Morton. He said, "Arbor Day is not like other holidays. Each of those reposes on the past, while Arbor Day proposes for the future." The trees right outside our doors provide critical benefits to people and wildlife, and over the next 50 years, urban areas are projected to increase substantially, as we know. The role of trees will become even more critical to ensure healthy and livable communities. Our urban forests provide a mix of benefits that are environmental, economic, and social. Trees help to filter air and water, control stormwater, conserve energy, and provide animal habitat and shade. They add beauty, form, and structure to city design. By reducing noise and providing places to recreate, urban forests strengthen social connections, spur community revitalization, and add economic value to our communities. Urban forests change constantly as a result of human and natural processes. Active management is essential to successfully address problems arising from past practices, refining current practices, and understanding natural processes and their relationship with human activities. So what I'd like to do, because this is a special year and we have a special award, if I can, I would like to ask if you wouldn't mind having a picture with all of you. I would like to be able to present this to you, Mayor, and on behalf of the Arbor Day Foundation and the Oregon Department of Forestry, as well as our Oregon State Forester, Peter Doty, I'm pleased to present this to you. This is, again, the Tree City USA Award for 2017 to the City of Lincoln City.
Council okay stepping up and doing it somewhere else so we're all together? Is that what you're asking?
Yes, if that's
otherwise we're all
okay.
spread out here.
You can be right behind there, too, if that helps,
Kinda
just
good.
right all
What did you say,
together.
Jeremy? You're the picture taker here.
We have a flag that we would like to also put in the picture.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Great. If you all want to go.
I think we're just going to be right here. It should be fine.
As long as I can.
Yeah, this is always the thing with this.
Beautiful.
We'll work. This will work just fine. Keep it down low for Judy. Maybe we should come over.
Back up. You too. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe I should go back. Do you mind if I go back there? Okay.
Can you see the flag?
Oh, you guys look so happy.
All right, now we smile.
Let me get a couple here real quick. Okay, 1 second.
Oh, Jeremy.
And then again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I guess I should really do it. I'm left-handed, so I
Oh, do you want a photo?
Congratulations.
Okay. Jeannie? Thank you. Jeannie, leave the chairs there. We're going to use them in a minute.
Okay.
Thank you.
Lapel pin for you.
You need this back?
So then when you go to
Jeannie, do you need this back?
Nope.
That's right.
And Mayor, we have a proposal for you. In order to continue as Tree City 2018, which would be our 11th year, we do have to have two requirements completed. One is the Arbor Day celebration, which we did this past Saturday, and the second is the proclamation made by the mayor.
Now, is it satisfactory to sign it, or do I need to read it?
Probably best if you read it.
Of course.
Thank you.
If I go too fast, feel free to stop me. All right, Tree City USA Arbor Day Proclamation, again, and with the council's permission, yes? Okay. Whereas Lincoln City celebrates Arbor Day every year to honor the important role trees play in our daily lives, and whereas Lincoln City residents have demonstrated their extraordinary support for trees in many ways, including a $3 million bond issue passed in 1998 for the purpose of preserving forests and other sensitive land within the city limits, and efforts in the past 5 years to improve forest health in the city's open spaces. And whereas on this Arbor Day, the city celebrates 2 successful thinning projects in Agnes Creek Open Space conducted in 2013 and 2014, and the completion of the Spyglass Thinning Project in 2016, and the planting of the spyglass trees and shrubs in 2017. Whereas Lincoln City continues to improve the ecological health of the forests in the city's open spaces through removal of invasive species, restoration of native vegetation, and tree planting with the partnership and help of Career Tech and their students, and the proposal work and continued implementation of projects by our local foresters and forestry companies, and to raise public awareness and opportunities for passive recreation through trail creation and maintenance. Now, therefore, I, Don Williams, Mayor, do hereby proclaim the date of April 7, 2018 as Arbor Day 2018 in the city of Lincoln City, and invite all citizens to join in its celebration and the city's efforts to support healthy trees and forest ecology for the well-being of this and future generations. You're here.
Thank you.
Mayor and council, thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Then we'll sign and pass that along. Thank you very much. All right, we're going to take a 5-minute break while we sit.
Could
oh,
I
I'm
make
sorry.
one? Could I
Please.
make one comment before we leave this? And it's just, can we just have the record show that the celebration was not at Regatta Park, but actually was held at the community center? Just,
Okay.
Thank you.
And we're going to take a 5-minute break while we set up for our interviews. Mic's off on. Yep. Would you like that? I have enough. Thanks for
Hello? Okay.
think I could live there.
Yeah.
You got a Keeler Center, you got a library.
He's got some
Mics are on.
You got a bus stop. Yeah.
Testing, 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
visiting.
Thank you. Okay, guys, we're back in session. Councilor Hoagland?
On record?
All right. Do you know the page number for that? The questions for our council.
44.
Thank you. New computer and everything is not working.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
It was suggested that we
Thank you
each
so much.
have a question, but there's 7.
7 questions, so there's an
6 of
introduction
them.
and then 6 questions.
Okay,
The first one's just an introduction.
okay.
Do you have one already?
Interdiction?
This? Yeah. No, I don't have the background. Okay.
Different?
So are we,
It's got names.
Oh, Mr. Sita withdrew his, so he's done. Yeah.
6 candidates.
so are we just going to rotate the questions? There's seven.
Have the mayor start with the first one.
Have they been given these questions? Not like when me and you did it.
Okay, so just so I'm clear, you guys, we're just going to ask a question. Each will answer in order. Then the next person will answer. So I can go to this side and then to this side? Would that be fine?
Sure.
Okay. So then I'll do 1, Riley do 2.
Okay.
3. That work? And then we have 1 left. And
You can do the last one, too.
I don't want to. Okay. So we're ready to roll then? Microphones tested and they're all good?
We're ready.
Okay. Folks, thanks for your indulgence here. We're going to do a little bit of housekeeping here. We have, I'm going to read pursuant to LCMC, and if I could have the conversations curtailed. Thanks. Appreciate it. Pursuant to LCMC 206015C5, notwithstanding the above, the Planning Commission and Budget Committee applicants shall be interviewed at regular or special City Council meeting. Current applicants to be interviewed are as follows: Larry Armstrong, David Jamison, Alan Lewis, Rick Mark, Maria McFarland, and Nancy Oxenholt. The way we're going to proceed is we'll have you all come forward. We have a list of 7 questions to ask. Each applicant's been provided with that question or questions. I will ask the first. We'll proceed from the left, from Councilor Hoagland down, and then we'll fight for the last question. So if applicants come on forward, you choose your seat. It does not matter one bit. Who wants it the worst? We're missing 1 seat. You got to fight for it.
Please make sure that you do speak into the microphone.
Yes, please.
3 openings?
3 openings, yes.
Okay, thank you.
And for no other reason than this is how I play board games, we'll start on our left. So, and as soon as you're ready,
Missing somebody.
Somebody, yeah, who's not?
Who's not here?
Is someone not here?
well, how about just Larry Armstrong? Okay, Larry's here. David Jameson. Is it Jamison? Jamison.
No, I'm kidding. It's Jameson.
You're hired.
don't
I like
mess
it
with
already.
us.
Alan Lewis. That's who we're missing. Rick Mark. Marie McFarland. Yeah, and is it Marie?
Marie.
Thank you. And Nancy Oxenholt. There we go. Okay. So, do we have any word on Alan or Mr. Lewis? What is our options on that then?
No show.
No show, no chance to, okay, so he's missed his opportunity. All right, real good. The following are the questions for the Budget Committee interviews, and I'll just start here with Nancy, and you just give us your answer. And we're going to try to keep it short and sweet, okay? If it goes a little long, I will stop you and submit it in writing. Tell us about yourself and why you're interested in serving on the Budget Committee. And you need the microphone, please. This is for the public record.
I'm Nancy Oxenhold. I run Dr. Bob Health Center and OHSU Cardiovascular Night Institute in the community. And I want better representation from small business owners on the Budget Committee. be more involved with local government. I've been here 20 years now, and just ready to get going with board work and council work.
Great, thank you.
Oh, thank you. I'm Larry Armstrong. I live on 51st Street in Taft, and I went to Oregon State, and I was in the Army for a couple of years, and I was in college textbook salesman for 30 years. I went to the Taft grade school because my father worked for the News Guard. We moved to Portland in 1952 when he went to work at the Oregonian. My family has owned the house I live in since 1939, and I now have time to give something back to my community. The jobs I was in the private sector required me to maintain a responsible budget. My experience in public budgeting is what I read in the newspapers or see on Channel 4.
I'm David Jameson. My wife and I have owned a home in Lincoln City since 2001. We lived here full-time since April of 2015. I work full-time for a Portland-based software company as a remote employee. Do a lot of volunteer activities, the local Toastmasters Club. I'm vice president of the Roads and Improvement Association. I'm an active member in CERT. I was on the visioning team for the Imagine Lincoln City process. And I'm interested in the budget committee. I really want to learn more about the city's true priorities are. I mean, ultimately, what gets funded represents the priorities of the city, and I'm interested in learning more about that process, how it comes together, what trade-offs are made along the way. And I think it'll be helpful to me, too, to be able to kind of explain how that comes together and what the results are to my community, the constituents that I talk to in the Roads End neighborhood in particular. So for those reasons, I'm interested in getting involved.
Thank you. I think they've got their own mics here, so you guys just hang on.
Hi, my name is Marie McFarland, and since 1977, I've had family here in town. My aunt came. She was twice Woman of the Year, very active in the community. I am a graduate of Willamette University for my undergraduate degrees, graduate degree in business from University of Maryland. Started first of all teaching music, and then went out for maternity leave, and so went into computers and worked quite a bit, 35 years in that industry myself, having my own consulting company as well as working for that guy called Ross Perot. So I've been all over the country, a lot of world travel due to business, lots and lots and lots of budgets over the years. And then I've owned an ice cream parlor, I've owned an insurance company, and have done a lot of volunteer business, through business, et cetera. My interests are looking from my aunt's perspective, what she did for the community. I'm now here full-time, having retired 4 times, and decided it's time to give something to the community and learn more about it. And I figured this would be the best way to learn, is to get involved in the budget and see not only what I could do to add information to it, but what I could glean, to use David's word, glean from it and learn what it is we can do to better help us, to the city of Lincoln City, to grow and prosper. So I'm very interested in this.
Thank you.
I'm Rick Mark. I've lived in the Lincoln City area for about 6 years, owned a house in Cutler City for about 2.5 years. My career was I'm a retired newspaper editor, spent about 30 years doing that. When the Great Recession hit 10 years ago, I had to recreate myself, so I went back to school, became a certified paralegal, and I work in the area part-time for a law firm, Andrews, Ursoff, and Santello, and I also work with my domestic partner, Britt Nelson, who runs a law practice from her house as well, and I do some other online editing work and things like that. I do some volunteer activities at the Oregon Coast Aquarium, and also I'm on the board of directors at Neighbors for Kids, which is an after-school program in Depot Bay, and I actually serve on the budget committee there, and I'm filling in as interim treasurer, so I'm learning the budget process for a nonprofit agency as well. Incidentally, Lincoln City has supported Neighbors for Kids the past couple of years with some funding, and it's much appreciated. I also spent some time here as a recording secretary at the Devils Lake Water District Board, and I also did a 6-month stint, as Jeremy can attest, as editor at the News Guard, which was a very educational experience. So both the Devils Lake work and the News Guard work gave me a sort of an entree into learning about how Lincoln City works, and it's a very complex process. There are lots of problems, lots of issues, lots of political things to cope with. So I'm interested in becoming part of the process, having a voice, learning more about the city, and I think the Budget Committee would be a way to do that.
Thank you. Councilor Hoagland.
Thank you all for applying and being here tonight and answering questions. I know I've been up there with questions, and it's not as easy as it looks, so thank you. My question is, how do you prioritize where the city spends its funding?
First, I think what you have to look at is what are the needs of the city. And then after you've filled your needs, then you look at what are the wants from the city. And that's what I would look at. There's a lot of things that, you know, people question, well, why did they pay for this? Why did we change our logo is the latest question. So I think the priorities are set by you have to have a strong police force. Are they out there? Are they people able to see them? Are they visible? City council, are they able to be reached? A lot of questions on the new Devil's Lake, hiding the lines under the construction that's going on down at the Dee River State Park. You know, rumors are it started at $1 million, now you're up to $3 million on it. And who knows? So I think there needs to be some accountability when something is raised that it was cost $1 million and then you've gone over that 3 times. Is that reasonable? Is that, you know, looking at budgets, is that what we want to do? Do you want to go over every project that you put out there? So.
Well, the first priority that I think you have to think about on the Budget Committee is we don't have a lot of say on a big chunk of the budget, probably 2/3 of it. We only really have power over the discretionary budget. And then you have to think about what that amount is and what you're going to spend on. In the newspaper here, Mr. Chandler just makes the point that, you know, anytime you spend money in one place, you got to take it away from someplace else. So our job is just economic choice and decision making and doing the best we can. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Councilor Hoagland, well, I think prioritization is based on the underlying reality of operating the city, meaning you have to fund the police force at a level that creates public safety. You need a library that provides resources to the public. You have to provide clean water and wastewater treatment and other public works projects. And that's just underlying aspects of running the city. And then the city council, staff, community work together to establish a prioritized list of investments after the sort of mandatory spending is figured out. And those include both short-term and longer-term investments. Short-term investments could be how do we deal with the eclipse that happened last year. Longer-term investments could be do we build a new dog park? Do we invest in the community center, make a bigger pool, whatever we want to do there. So, but I think one thing that I would bring to this is I think the umbrella that a lot of this needs to be measured in is competitiveness. And what I mean by that, you know, I've spent my career in sales and working in corporate America, and I'm very familiar with what it takes in order for, in my case, software companies to be successful and compete. And I think the city of Lincoln City is no different, really. We're in competition with other coastal cities, with other cities in the state, with other cities around the country to provide a climate that's good for business, that's good for retirement, that's safe, all these, that has great education. All these things are critical, and they need to be considered in terms of long-term planning. The budget is a key part of that. So again, I think about this umbrella of competitiveness at the city level because of my experience in corporate America.
Thank you for the question. What I wrote down before coming, it was very quick, needs versus wants. And as has already been described by three people up here, it's the same thing. It comes down to what are the needs, what are the prioritizing of those needs, where do they fit in with the discretionary budget that's available to spend for those needs, what are the priorities that are ruling the expenditures there, and that doesn't change no matter what business you're in, and that's short and sweet, as Ross used to say, upfront, blunt, and candid. That's it. Next.
Thanks. I have a similar sort of really generic answer. What I wrote was, this is something I hope to learn as a new member of the Budget Committee. I'm sure that the needs always outweigh the available resources. Of course, the city must provide for certain critical functions, such as infrastructure and emergency services, but there are other important needs that are not strictly critical. There's an element of common sense that tells us that certain expenses are inevitable and unavoidable. Other expenses may be very reasonable when finances make sense, and some expenses just have to wait for a sunnier day. And I think it's sort of what we're all been saying.
Councilor Hinton.
All right, I have question number 3, and I just have are we going to still have Nancy have to, yeah, I was going to. What?
Whatever works for you, just keep it so they all know when to say and when.
They've been given the answer to the question.
Okay, true. Okay, Nancy. My question is, how can Lincoln City better engage the public in the budget process?
I think that you have to put it in layman's terms. When we do any type of paperwork in the medical field, we go down to a 5th grade level where everyone can read it. And so I think you have to step it down to a level that's understandable for the public. Also, to get it out there, I think that coffee hours are great. Go to the people where they are, go to coffee shops, go to the community center, go to the senior center, and have an open forum type with questions and answers.
Yeah, I spent my life basically communicating because I was a salesman, and I don't know that I can give you a perfect answer to the question other than to say that, you know, you just work hard at it and try to communicate with people in a manner that they can understand.
Councilor Hinton, I think that people operate in under their own self-interests, and that people need to understand why this is important to them, why the budget process is important to them, what's in it for them, what the possible outcomes could be of this process. You know, you have to engage them by appealing to their self-interest, and I think you do that through education. You let them know the process is happening. You have articles in the News Guard that are written at a comprehensible level, social media updates, let people know what the important dates are and how they can get involved, survey requests, even budgeting games if you want to engage people. You know, we have this pool of money that's available. How would you spend it? What's important to you? Get their feedback that way. So appealing to people's self-interest is, I think, critical in getting them more involved. They have to understand what's in it for them, why this is important, what the dates are, and then you have to approach them in ways that are consumable to them. Not everybody reads the newspaper, but a lot of people are on social media, so you have to go many different routes.
Again, many of the opinions that have been expressed are some of the same feelings I have. But again, I think communication is key to so many things, and successful communication will potentially bring in others, and you can never over-communicate. Not only what the budget is, where your meetings are, when they are, the amount of time is spent, et cetera. Communication is I would say 98% of the battle is getting the word out and getting people to get involved, to have a role in that process. And there are a lot of people that, unless it affects them, they want nothing to do with it. It's somebody else's problem, which is sad.
Thank you. Also similar, what I jotted down was perhaps an occasional informative ad in the local newspapers, or a submission to newspapers and websites that explain the steps in the process and inviting public input, and we might do that already. Maybe an occasional survey with a few simple questions that ask about budget priorities that people could respond to. And one thought was to maybe on the website, on your city website, you could have a question and answer forum set up, like not like an FAQ, but where people could write in questions and get responses from the city. That could address budget questions and all sorts of questions about city operations. So that might be a way to connect with citizens who might not show up at meetings like this.
Councilor Waukee.
Hey, I'm going to start at the other end. If you could add or eliminate one Lincoln City service, what would that be?
Thank you, Councilor Waukee. I had an experience when I worked at the News Guard, and Mr. Mayor, you might recall this. I did a story about a couple that had a terrible mold problem in their apartment. And one thing I was surprised to, they had trouble dealing with their landlord and things like that. One thing that surprised me when I did the story, because I called the county health department, and I also called the city, well, I didn't know who to call in the city who might address that, and I kind of bounced around to a couple different departments. I ended up talking to, I think it was the code enforcement officer, who said the same thing that the county health department told me, which is we don't deal with mold problems. Now, this was a problem that made this apartment uninhabitable. So the only, as I recall, if I'm recalling this correctly, the only recourse that these tenants had would be to take the landlord to court, which for many people is a really onerous, expensive, and impossible option. So I'm wondering, in terms of city services, if it would be possible to have something in the code that might require rental properties to be habitable, so that it would be a code violation if the place wasn't habitable, and that would add some weight to a situation like this, and it would hold landlords accountable, but also part of the problem needs to be awareness and education on the part of the residents, because mold issues are very often caused by, frankly, irresponsible behavior on the part of the tenants. So one thing that happened when I researched this was I came upon a manual that was put out in the city of Portland that gave guidance to tenants on how to maintain your house, about running the fan in the bathroom and things like that. So that would be another aspect of this, that the city could provide educational material for tenants, which I'm sure the landlords would support, and then also have a way to hold landlords accountable if they are not providing a residence that's really suitable. So that was one thought I had.
At this time, I feel I don't know enough about what all is in the budget. I looked over the list of things that we contribute to as far as some of the projects that you're funding, et cetera. And I really don't know enough about them to really pass a good, rational thought process behind saying this would be good to eliminate or this would be good to keep. And that's part of why I'm here tonight, looking possibly to join you to learn more about the budget and see where things, what shakes out and how it works.
Councilor Waukee, I'd add an investment plan for municipal broadband. And I know this is on the agenda later. I'm not sure where you're going with that, but frankly, I don't think Charter or CenturyLink or any other private entity can provide the level of service that's necessary for the needs of a diverse citizenship. With Charter, I have one option, $65 a month for high-speed internet. It's not bad, but one option is it, and a lot of people can't afford $65 a month. And I look at municipal broadband and broadband access in general as a utility. I mean, it's like providing water service or electric service or roads. It is a necessity in our society today, and After hearing the folks from Monmouth Independence and researching what they did in Sandy for high-speed internet, I mean, in Monmouth Independence, they actually had a business locate there as a result of their high-speed internet, and it was a call center, and the turnover is much lower when you locate a call center in a more remote area. People are much more loyal to the company. I think that, back to my competitiveness statement earlier, that Lincoln City is probably never going to become a manufacturing hub in America, and probably not a distribution center just because of the geography, but can attract knowledge-based workers and knowledge economy, and that would add significantly, or could add significantly, to the economic base and help raise household income and home ownership and all the measures of success in our society, if you will. And I just think that municipal broadband is a step in that direction, so I would be very passionate about finding ways to fund that.
Councilman Walke, your question, I think, is what would we like to either add or eliminate from the city budget? And I've had plenty of time to think about it, and if I had something intelligent to say to you, I would say it, but I don't.
I don't think there's anything that needs to be taken away. And coming from my background, I would add a dental van that comes down. I know I've gotten a grant before for it. There is a large population that does not get dental care in Lincoln City. And you have veterans, you have the uninsured, and you have the homeless. And I think that there's a need there that would be helpful for a lot of people. I know Samaritan brings it down now and covers also the schools. They'll go in and do cleaning and, you know, instructing and teaching in the schools now. But that's another need, I think, that we could look at.
Councilor Casper.
All right, I'll start with Mr. Mark. What is the proper role of government in providing social services?
Thank you, Councilor Casper. I'll read what I wrote here. I'm a strong believer in individual responsibility and that people need to take care of their own needs. That said, I also know that there will always be a certain percentage of people who just can't cope for one reason or another and who struggle to provide for themselves and their families. I think society as a whole benefits when people in need get help having their basic needs met. So I do think it's proper for government at all levels to help low-income people with food, shelter, education, health care, dealing with substance abuse, and so on. Charitable assistance is important, but I think the reality is that charity only goes so far.
I have thought long and hard about this because it is something that when I grew up as a child, there was no real social services that were available to help us, and we were very poor. We were happy, but we were poor. And if it weren't for the church, other members of the community helping out, I don't know at times how we would have done things. People gave my grandparents clothes. Those clothes ended up being remade, and I wore them. And I was happy. It was new to me, you know. So it was a situation where I was raised in a generation that a lot of people helped other people, and it wasn't the expectation of the city, the county, the state, the federal government doing these things for them. And I don't think that that necessarily is a wrong approach for it. I recognize that there's going to be some social services that will always be needed, and that we as a society, this day and age especially, will always be contributing to some of them. My concern is to how much we contribute, because again, I too believe that you need to kind of pull yourself up by your bootstraps and do some things for yourself. And part of that comes in helping yourself with your basic needs and showing others that you can do, not just expecting someone to take care of you. So my answer may be a little bit different, but it's because of how I've come up. And I still believe that that's probably, I'm glad I came up that way.
Councilor Casper, I I think government has a huge role in providing social services that prevent catastrophic decline in people's lives, also to make investments in programs that can raise people's quality of life. I mean, without Social Security, my father-in-law lives in High Ridge, Missouri, and served in the U.S. Air Force. He would not be able to get by. I mean, he would absolutely not be able to get by. His life would collapse. Honestly, it's just not possible. I mean, I think there are activities and programs that are just best handled by public entities based on the reality of our society. I mean, child welfare, homelessness, and the opioid crisis that we have in America. I mean, it's just, government has to be the tip of the spear in providing access to resources that can help people and in resolving immediate pain. I mean, emergency pain, short-term pain, helping people get through very difficult times in their lives. Public health, you know, flu shot clinics, and all these things that lead to stability, really. I think it's the role of government to be involved in that.
Yeah, there's just no question that the government has to be involved in social services. My own preference would be, you know, it would be wonderful if the private sector could just work through these things and we wouldn't need it, but that's just simply impossible. And what you do have to do is just figure out how much money and resources you're going to put into this and make some kind of decent decision.
I think you've opened up Pandora's box when you ask the government for help. Are there responsibilities? Yeah. But where do we begin and where do we stop? I do the community meals, and we serve meals Mondays and Thursdays and Saturday. And when those people come in, if they're homeless, I will ask them, why did you come to Lincoln City? What brought you to Lincoln City? I wanted to go to the beach. I always wanted to go to the beach. No concept of getting a job, no concept of helping, volunteering, anything like that. I also help do Meals for Family Promise and help support them. And those are people that want to get back on with their life, and they have programs that they go to. They have classes. I think that's a very good, worthwhile program there. The warming shelter has, helped so many people, and they put their statistics on Facebook for people to see what they've done for the month, and that's a helpful program. That for homeless, the housing factor, unemployment, you have a poor community you're beginning with. So there is a lot of volunteerism. There's a lot of support from the community. There's a lot of churches that show support and give out, food baskets every week, the food pantry, things like that. I think there needs to be better communication between the programs so we all know what everyone does, and then you can get the information and get the word out there for people.
Councilor Anderson.
Marie, were you here 2 or 3 meetings ago, and we made you wait until this meeting to do the interviews?
I came, but I wasn't, you didn't do the interviews.
Right, yeah.
Right.
So I wanted to make, again, a public apology for having put you through that, but
No
this
problem.
certainly works a lot better, so thank you for waiting.
No
So,
problem.
Mr. Jameson, let's jump to the middle, with 5 of you there. As a reader of the budget, what should it tell you?
Councilor Anderson, I guess in basic terms, it tells you what the revenue sources are for the city, the money that's flowing in, and what those sources of revenue are. It tells you the money flowing out, where it's going, what it's funding, what services, what projects, what investments, what salaries. It tells you what the priorities are for government, for the city, what projects, programs, services are considered valuable. It also tells you what isn't important, by what isn't funded. You see examples of that at the federal level with the Consumer Federal Protection Bureau. Maybe I got that acronym wrong, but choosing not to fund that. So I think it's pretty straightforward as far as that goes.
Yeah, I mean, the reading of the budget and digesting it is really sort of the beginning of the whole process of how you're going to allocate resources for the city. And if you take the time to read it carefully, you're going to learn a lot, and then, of course, you've also got your own ideas about things which influence what you're thinking. That's about all I got to say.
I think when I look at a budget, first I want to know where the money's coming from. So we have a set amount of money, and then it's divvied up into the court system, the police department, visitors bureau, parks and recreation, land, developing. And so then that's going to be broken down into further aspects of projects and that. I want to see where it's going and if it's beneficial. And I don't know if you get that third part of it just looking at it on paper. So there may be a lot of questions as to, well, have we done this before? Has it been beneficial? And the other thing that I would hope is that it's probably 500 pages that you don't get a week to look at it, that you are given an amount of time that you can go over it, and if you had questions, you could ask the appropriate people. So that's what I think a budget, what I would look at, where the money's coming from, which is mainly tax dollars and TRT tax, I would think, and where it's going.
Where do the dollars come from and where do they go? I did look over the 110-page city budget that was adopted for this current fiscal year. I actually found it very readable and informative and easy to follow. So impressed by its thoroughness and readability, and I really had no other suggestions for what needs to be in there.
I've always, when I look at a budget, I look at input and outgo. Those two, to me, that's what it looks like. But the other thing is it also tells you where the power is. It says this is where what's very, very important and potentially who has that power to help make that important. So again, it goes back to a communication issue and how that's communicated and why it's important. What is critical? Why is it critical? And the budget reflects those things, those dollars and cents.
Thank you. Thank you. And the last question, what are the biggest opportunities and challenges facing Lincoln City? We'll start at the end here, Nancy.
I think some of the challenges of Lincoln City is traffic, especially in the summer. I remember years ago when we used to have the police on bikes, if anybody remembers that, and they would patrol on the bicycles down 101, down to 51st Street and back up again. I think affordable housing is a big issue. You see the job postings all the time, and there's nobody to fill them. You know, people come and they get here, and it's like, well, I can't afford $1,500 or $1,200 for a one-bedroom apartment. And the housing market is just, people are selling and buying like crazy right now. So I think affordable housing is a big issue, and it has to be affordable where it's minimum wage jobs. And I think that's probably one of the biggest issues in Lincoln City. One of the biggest opportunities is probably for visitors when they come to the city, how wonderful it is, the beaches. I think the beach access is really great. The parks do a tremendous job with the walking paths and programs that they do. And I think if it's out there, not everybody has a computer, and so they completely don't look at anything. Sometimes they're able to get to the community center, or they're able to go to the senior center and use one, or the library, which is great. So we can't just depend on people hearing things. You have to get out there to the areas that they are in.
Yeah, it's odd, you know, sometimes opportunities and challenges really fit together. I'll just give you two short examples. One, this whole vacation rental business that we've been through in the city for the last 5 years or more, it seems that maybe it's getting better. But the odd part is, I mean, parts of it are difficult, but it's also a huge economic engine in the city, and we just have to work through this. And secondly, in terms of people that don't live in the city and come here as tourists, I mean, I work part-time now in a hotel on the front desk, and I see these people every weekend, you know, coming in and out. And she's right. The traffic situation in the summer is just awful. And I frankly think it's one of the biggest challenges that the city faces. And the city can't resolve it. They have to have help from ODOT and all kinds of stuff. We all know that. Thank you.
Three opportunities, three challenges that came to mind for me. First of all, in terms of opportunity, I think one of the demographic trends in America is more and more baby boomers are retiring every year. And Lincoln City income from a tourism-based economy and from retirees. And I think attracting those retirees to come here represents a good opportunity for the city. I think another opportunity is capitalizing on what's here already, the infrastructure that's already in place, the community center, which I'm an avid user of the community center, capitalizing on the swimming pool and everything, the basketball that's available there. The 7 miles of beach, of course, capitalizing on that, the lodging that we have, the restaurants, the entertainment, all of that, you know, and I think we do a good job of that. And the arts, the glass studios and the cultural center and all, just capitalizing on what is already here as an opportunity. And finally, I think there's an opportunity around the small town appeal to knowledge-based workers like myself who are either working as remote employees or maybe who want to relocate a business somewhere that is less of a hassle. The city of Portland is a nightmare to get around. Imagine having a short commute here and the great lifestyle that we offer. So I think that's another opportunity. In terms of challenges, number one for me really is how to diversify away from such a reliance on tourism and the tourism-driven economy. Statistically, Lincoln City fares worse than most cities in Lincoln County and Lincoln County overall in terms of household income and home ownership, you know, statistically. And that's because it's tough to make really wages that allow you to own a home, even if you're working part-time or multiple jobs part-time in the tourism industry. It just doesn't pay that well. So I think that's a big challenge. I think aging infrastructure, just like anywhere, is a challenge. You know, the water treatment plant, the police station, even this building, bringing them up to modern standards is always a challenge. And I think emergency preparedness is also a challenge. I've been involved in that in our neighborhood. The Cascadia subduction zone, you know, no one knows when it'll go, but it will go again. And when that happens, you know, it's not going to be good. 9.1 is going to generate this huge tsunami, and we have to be reasonably prepared for that. And that is a tough, tough thing to do, but it's a huge challenge.
Back in the late 70s, early 80s, the state of Oregon offered Lincoln City an opportunity to build a bypass. And I don't know how many of you were around at that time, but it was very much frowned upon because, oh my God, we'll lose all the business. Nobody will come to Lincoln City and it'll all go away and we'll just die. Well, they also offered Cannon Beach the same opportunity. And you see what's happened with Cannon Beach. Because of that, I don't know, again, not familiar, I do not know if anyone has approached the state of Oregon about a possibility of a bypass to get rid of some of the excess traffic that doesn't need to come into the town, which would help alleviate some of our traffic situations here in town, especially in the summertime. We got a lot of truck traffic going through and a lot of vehicles that are transiting through the area that aren't staying for one reason or another. And we have a lot of people that would like to stay, but there's no parking from their perception. But there, you know, when you start looking around, where am I going to park? Where am I going to park? So we have an issue with parking. We have an issue with getting traffic through town. I know if I have to go from the north end of town to the south end of town, it's like, oh no, what time is it? Can I get there before, you know, so I can get through town and get back before all the traffic comes into town? So it's always a concern about the traffic and about that movement, about parking, people, the pedestrians walking in and out through cars. They don't necessarily go to the crosswalk. So there's always this congestion all through town. The other thing that, along with this parking and everything, the other thing that I've been struck about in the community is also, we were talking about affordable housing or the lack thereof. We just don't have any housing. And there are a lot of people that have been interviewed for positions around town for jobs, and they say, I'd like to go work for this, but I have no place to live. I can't come take a job here because I don't have a place I can live. A, it's affordable if it's even available. So there's something we need to do something about available housing, better up for affordable available housing, parking. And the other thing I put down that I was thinking about, and I've thought about it because it's going on in other communities, especially in the summertime when we have so many people in town. We don't have the restaurants that can support all of the people, but you know, there are food carts. I do not know what the situation has been as possibly licensing food carts, which would drive some income for the city, and it might make a, you know, ability to park them on some of these lots you might up like at Bill's. Yeah. Thank you. Anyway, they've got the empty lot up there near the community center, and there's lots that potentially we could park these carts at that would make availability to get people through town and at the same time feed some of these people and address some of the needs. And it would be a way potentially to help drive some revenue too for the city. So all towns have those issues.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Similar theme, affordable housing, attracting jobs, attracting skilled workers who are being asked to accept wages that are too low relative to the housing costs. Maintaining our infrastructure, planning for the future, protecting infrastructure from tsunami risk. It's important for the city to appear to be a welcoming place. It needs to be accessible. It needs adequate parking. I like seeing the improvements that have been made to make the city more walkable. I like to see public art. We live in a beautiful location full of natural wonders that attract tourists, bird watchers, photographers, hikers. I think the VCB provides a very important service. The Lincoln City economy depends on attracting people to town, so it's wise for the city to invest in features that make the city more welcoming to visitors. That's, I made myself a couple other little notes, and I'll just mention them real quick. As far as traffic, I thought I heard some conversation until a while back about a possible road from the Nelscott Gap area cutting east of the highway up to East Devils Lake Road. And that seems like, I mean, obviously, it sounds like a very expensive thing, but I think that would be a great way to relieve some of the highway traffic. I've also had this kind of wild idea that I wonder if, you know, I know the casino is putting in, I believe, an actual parking deck, and I wonder if the city could find some places like down in Taft or Ocean Lake to be thinking about a multiple level parking deck that would relieve some of the parking concern and also provide tsunami safe spots if that tragedy should occur. And then one other element that just jumped in my head, and this has nothing to do with city services, but when the traffic's really bad on a summer weekend.
Rick, if I could have you speak into the mic.
I'm sorry. When the traffic's really bad on a summer weekend, I find that if I just slow down a little bit and let a good long gap open up between me and the car ahead of me, as I drive through town, you just watch all the cars make their left turns from the center lane and come out onto the highway, and I will let 20 cars get in that way if I do that. And I don't have to do it all the time, and I don't recommend that everybody do it all the time, but I think it's a nice, polite thing to do.
Appreciate it. And I'm going to cut it off there because we still have a lot of voting to do. Folks, thank you all so much for applying for this position. I appreciate you giving your time to this, and for those of you who move on, Thank you for your service. I'm going to read something here so you all are informed. Staff recommends the council conduct public interviews and use the ballot method for appointing these positions. The ballots are public records and will be read. All applicants have met the background and address verification requirements for this position. With regard to Marie McFarland, her voter registration is currently being updated, and we have confirmation code from Lincoln County's county clerk's office to confirm submission of her registration. The appointment to the Budget Committee will be made by ballots distributed by the city recorder. This process may involve several rounds of voting for nominations. Once the process is complete, there will be a motion to appoint the final nominees to positions on the Budget Committee. So with that, I don't think it's necessary for you to stay up here anymore, so feel free to hang around or take off or whatever. Thank you again so very much. We really appreciate it. Yeah, how exciting. Do we need a minute to tear things down, Ron, or? Okay, so,
You can sing us.
city recorder. Thank you.
How many do we vote for? What are we supposed to do?
Circle
3 spots.
That was round one.
Round one, and just put X's, or?
Give us instructions, please.
So if I'm seeing this correctly, I'm going to circle the round number, correct? We're in round one, so I'll circle that first. And then I have the names, I'm going to put an X next to them. Will I leave, am I going to reuse this if I need to, so I'm going to make it small?
I have 2 other sets here.
Okay, all right. So we'll put an X next to it, give it to you, you'll pick it up, you'll read it, and then we'll move from there. All right, real good.
Are we voting for 3 at this?
3 at this time? Thank you. I think we're good.
So Dick Anderson, Larry Armstrong, Rick Mark, and Nancy Oxenholt. Judy Casper, Larry Armstrong, Rick Mark, and Nancy Oxenholt. Counselor Walke, Rick Mark, Marie McFarland, Nancy Oxenholt. Mayor Williams, Larry Armstrong, Marie McFarland, Nancy Oxenholt. Deanna Hinton, David Jameson, Rick Mark, Marie McFarland.
Kathy, perhaps just a little bit louder.
I'm sorry.
Just a little bit louder.
Riley Hoagland, Larry Armstrong, David Jameson, and Rick Mark. Riley was Rick Mark. Rick Mark was the third one. Check your math.
Do we have any Jeopardy music?
So we have 5 votes for Rick Mark, 4 votes for Larry Armstrong, 4 votes for Nancy Oxenholt, 3 votes for Marie McFarland, and 2 votes for David Jameson.
We just needed the 5, 4, and 4. And that does it? How many 4s do we have?
2 4s and 1
Fours.
5.
And 1
That take
5.
care of it then? That should, that's the majority.
I think motion would be appropriate to appoint, if you consider this the nomination process, you need a motion to make the appointment, and a motion to appoint Rick Mark, Larry Armstrong, and Nancy Oxenholt as being the top nominees.
So moved.
Second?
Motion is second. Discussion? Hearing none, is this okay to do just a voice? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Now it's the actual vote for them, right? Did we do one at a time?
Oh,
That was it.
That
Oh,
was it.
we covered it all, we're done.
We're done, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you again to all those who applied. To those who did not get on this time, please reapply or join another committee. We always need people. So thank you very, very much. Do we need a minute, or are we going to leave these up?
We can just leave them up.
Perfect.
Mr. Chandler, do we have budgets available for the three of them tonight?
Oh. Do you have their three?
That way they'd have the same amount of time as we do to look at them.
If you'll stay here, the three, for about 5 minutes, while we have something that our finance director has to present to the city council. As soon as she's done, she'll get your books.
Mr. Appicello, do I have a script for the public hearing?
No, I believe this is this is the finance department, but I believe this is an opportunity for public comment is required.
Yeah.
We don't have a script.
Okay, so public hearings, public comment. This is Resolution 2018-04, resolution adopting the supplemental budget of the City of Lincoln City, Oregon for fiscal year 2017-18 as approved by the City Council and making appropriations. Would we have presentation, then call for public comment? Okay.
Okay, this actually is we do require a public hearing on a public comment. I don't know how much that matters. We have a couple requests to make budget change requests, and they're of an amount that they require a public hearing. So I'll try to go through them quickly. The first one is to began a Vorage pump station replacement back in 16-17, and it was completed in this fiscal year. So we need to request appropriation for that, and that will be funded from a higher beginning balance than what we had budgeted for, because we had anticipated it would be finished last year, and it wasn't, and so the beginning fund balance is higher. So it's still funded within the same fund. We're not really moving money around to fund it. It's just moving some of it from 16-17 to 17-18. That makes sense. No?
I hope it makes sense to you.
Yeah.
Right? That's all that really matters.
We thought when we were doing this year's budget, we thought this project would be completed, and so we put all of the money in last year's estimate. Because it wasn't, we need to take it out and move it into this year. Okay. The next item, similar situation. There's some work for the dewatering equipment and building at the sewer plant that was begun in the 16-17 year. It was not included in this year. Thought it would be completed, and it wasn't, so we need to move money over. Again, this is primarily funded by a higher beginning balance in the fund than what we had anticipated, but we are also needing to fund it with a transfer from the sewer operations fund because there isn't quite enough in there to pay for it all. And so the transfer out of the sewer fund would be $125,000 into the SDC Sewer Improvement Fund, which would provide the funding for this. Okay, the last two items are kind of housekeeping. This year we've combined our open space fund in with our parks maintenance fund. There's in the open space fund there's $73,364, so we would like to move it out of that fund because we're not using it anymore, and it seemed the most logical place to put it would be in the parks fund. So that's where the next two items are, a request just to move that money from open space to parks. Okay.
That it?
That's it. So if we have any
questions for
anyone
staff?
that wants to comment.
No? Thank you very much. All right, at this point, we'll open up a public hearing for anyone who wants to make comment on this. Seeing none. Next step.
To close the public, Rick?
Second.
Motion second. Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. That covered record and,
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
Motion to approve Resolution 2018-04, adopting the supplemental budget for fiscal year 2017-2018.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Hinton,
Yes.
Casper,
Yes.
Walke,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
And Hoagland.
Yes.
Motion carries.
You, no ordinances, I'm assuming. Resolution 2018-05, resolution rescinding resolution number 2016-03 of the City of Lincoln City and redesignating bank depositories and authorized signatories for checks and drafts of the City of Lincoln City. Who's on this one? Oh,
Hey,
there
gang.
you are. Hello.
She's back.
So when I got married a few weeks ago, I had absolutely no idea what all lengths I would have to go to get my name changed everywhere. So this resolution has to do with the banking and who can sign checks for the city. So just a couple changes on it. First of all, it's just a name change. Also, the last resolution references Bank of the Cascades, and as you all know, that was bought out by First Interstate, and so we're using First Interstate, so it makes that correction as well. And then the third thing is that I have removed Wells Fargo because we no longer use them. We used to use them for a small thing that we don't use them for anymore. And those are, I believe, the only three changes in this resolution. Everything process-wise would still be the same positions would still sign for checks and
Okay.
just different
Questions
different
for
names.
staff? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, motion to approve Resolution 2018-05, rescinding Resolution 2016-03, designating bank depositories and authorized signatures for checks and drafts of the City of Lincoln City.
Second.
You got that, Kathy? Okay. Motion and second. Discussion? Hearing none. Do I need a roll call on that? No? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you very much. Okay, municipal broadband.
Want to lead, or do you want me to?
Go ahead.
So this was one of the city council's priorities that we have been working with Councilor Casper on over the last year. The question or the issue began with, should the city of Lincoln City be pursuing a municipal broadband system or solution? And it was based on a few assumptions. One of those was that the city is underserved by the current internet providers. The city is considered to be a rural community in regards to broadband access. Broadband is defined as internet access service provided either fully or partially by local governments. And the fourth is that Federal Communications Commission defines the broadband as connection speeds of at least 25 Mbps downstream and 3 Mbps upstream. Over the course of the last year, there's been a few things that have happened. The first was with MyNet cable services in Independence, Oregon. A group of us went out there and toured their facility, learned quite a bit about their municipal broadband system, how it started, some of the things they would do again if they had the chance, some of the things that went right, and the general success of it. We later, this would have been September of last year, we met, had a public meeting. It was fairly well attended, and we included the MyNet officials to discuss their experience and the general idea of municipal broadband. We heard from several business owners, residents, people who were participating in that. The third part of our research was really Councilor Casper and Tony Lasoya, who met with officials from, or with a gentleman named Keith Grunberg, who is the Director of Business Services at COSCOM, to discuss the services that are currently available in Lincoln City and what it would take to construct our own city fiber system. With all of that, there were a few things that we learned from that. The first is that the city is not considered to be underserved, according to the definitions, that our three incumbent providers of Charter, CenturyLink, and Wave, or which used to be COSCOM, provide a service which makes it so that we are not underserved. We are not also considered, under the FCC definition of broadband, we're also not considered to be rural, and therefore we are not viable candidates for federal or state assistance. And then the third is that the total cost of a municipal broadband system would be borne by the taxpayers, and it could be heavy to the taxpayers. So with all of that information, we really began asking ourselves a different question, and instead of should the city build a municipal broadband service, we began to ask ourselves the question and try to gain an understanding on accessibility of the service to our residents and businesses. And one of the things that we've concluded is that there is an underserved population in Lincoln City, but that is not due to a lack of available services, but maybe due to other things. Could be personal choice, economics, a lack, or some other social block that makes accessing the internet service or municipal broadband service difficult. So we discussed with Councilor Casper in greater detail on this concept of really if there is an underserved population, which we believe there is, how do we best meet those needs? And we came to really the next step that we would be taking as it pertains to that question is, for this resource or for the broadband service, how do we define underserved? How do we identify the underserved? And then what are the strategies and possible solutions to make the service more accessible? So it's been quite a journey that we've been on. It's been a very educational journey. And in many ways it's been focusing it and narrowing it down to try to really identify what the issues are that we are able to deal with, that we legally can deal with, and that would make sense for our community. So I'm going to turn this over to Councilor Casper to add anything, but really what we are looking at is just your input as far as our direction and continuing down that direction.
Can I?
Please.
Yeah, I wanted to say in January, the FCC joined up with Business Oregon, and they put on a coalition of people trying to apply for grants. And the FCC had designated funds to build a coalition in rural areas called Connect Americans Now. So I attended this conference, and what they were going to do is identify rural areas, and I was trying to get Lincoln City hooked in if we could apply for this grant. They had $500,000. And if we wanted to include ourselves, we had to take in areas like Otis, Schooner Creek, Siletz, very rural areas. And that wasn't our goal. Our goal was to keep it within the city. However, I did learn that Microsoft has a technology to use TV white space, which is the bandwidth on 3 channels on your TV set digitally. And so Microsoft created an open patent on a little box that looks like your monitor. And this can go through trees, rocks, mountains, all kinds of terrain. And it can be put up in series 25 miles apart. And this is now being used in the Dakotas, in Virginia, in Colorado. It's very big for agribusiness. I can see a push for their irrigation and planting schedules. It's very useful in rural tribal areas. It's being used for telecommunication. If you have devices that need to be monitored, patient reports that need to be transported. But in Oregon, we have 1,300 schools, 303 schools. 300 of these do not have access to broadband. We do. We have broadband. We're considered broadband. It's running down our Highway 101. So we do. We have the 25.3. And if you want to pay for it, you can upgrade yourselves. If you look at your home computer, sometimes mine is up to 72 download. But if you want to expand it, you can. So I think it's important to ask ourselves, if we're trying to gear assistance to a community, would it be beneficial to focus on our student population? In looking around the city, I find we have Wi-Fi in the parking lot below the library and in Starbucks and various places. And our schools do communicate with parents on their cell phones, as Riley has attested to. And a lot of kids don't have homework capabilities because they don't have access to it. Some parents I know just buy cell phone cards, so they probably don't have access to it. So I guess my question is, since we're in kind of a transitional culture here where our workplace is changing and our occupations are changing, is our responsibility to help our population, our student population, and those who want learning, to keep up the flexibility and the autonomy and give them the skills that they need, because they're not going to stay in our community. They're going to go off to college or training schools or pursue their aspirations. But I feel they need the skills to go out there and achieve these goals. So I guess I'm asking the council, even though we might not see an immediate need for broadband, I don't know if we can float a bond or get a lot of donors to give us access to it. Should we be thinking about, well, when we have a new urban renewal district, should we start laying fiber optics under there? These are things that are coming up. There was a city council in St. Louis Park where they wanted to try something new, and so they got solar panels to have free Wi-Fi in their city. Everybody was excited. They did their research. They got their numbers together, and they educated the community about how wonderful this was. First snowstorm came. All of the solar panels cracked. Everybody got upset. They sued the company that put in the solar panels. Everybody was beside themselves. They got their $1.7 million back. However, the community, what did they say to them? They go, well, that didn't work. What are we going to try next? So I think the question is, what are we going to try next? This was I think a good question. We wanted to lower our costs. We wanted faster speed. We wanted reliable speed. And we wanted to do economic development. And it sounds to me like the FCC is focusing on economic development in rural communities specifically. It's not really us because we're not rural. So there must be a place for us. And I guess I'm asking the council, what's next for us, other than our governor today did sign net neutrality. And I spoke with Ron Wyden when he was here. I asked him specifically, I said, is this a good thing we should be doing? He said yes, because the federal government, as of April 23rd, is trying to shut down net neutrality, which would not give us unfettered access to all the information that we and our growing population of students and learning people want. So we have that, along with other states. There will be probably legal battles about local control, state control, and federal government, but so be it. We have it right now, and this is something that's probably far more important right now than anything we could hope for in our internet world. So I pose to you your thoughts.
Well, first, thank you. Thank you for taking this on, and it was a big challenge, and as I don't know if everyone is aware, we don't get paid for any of this, and Councilor Casper did this on her own time and initiative, and very grateful for that. Well done. Thank you. You can answer a question for me, because I'm ignorant on this. I've read that we have 3 providers. What is it we're missing with that? Is it the fiber optic itself that provides a faster, more reliable? What's missing?
That may depend upon who you ask. So I'm going to kind of take it straight from an FCC standpoint of being served or underserved. The key is the fiber extension and the level of service that it gives, such as the 25 downstream and the 3 upstream of your streaming capability. The fiber that those 3 companies provide, let me say it differently. The service that those 3 provide does meet the FCC definition of being served. So we're not underserved in that area. Now, the reason I say it depends upon who you ask is that there are those that would like to see fiber to their home, right? Not a fiber backbone, but a fiber that goes right to the home.
Okay, I'm going to stop you right there, because that provides something we don't have now, having a fiber versus...
Generally not. No.
Versus a cable.
Yes. But
Okay.
again, the thing that you want to look at is the capacity and the capability that each of those give to you for the type of service that you're interested in.
Fiber's preferential. No, that's the right word.
Depends
This is
on
where
how
I'm lost.
Depends on what you want to pay. Okay? Yes,
If I wanted to pay everything.
If I wanted to pay for it,
that would be
yes,
the
having
best.
fiber to your door is the best way to go if you want to pay for that.
Yeah.
If you don't want to pay for that, then no, it's not the best way to go. Okay? But as far as the FCC definition goes, we are not underserved because we have the providers that meet their standards. That's why we began looking at the question is, who is underserved, where are they underserved, and why are they underserved? And those are the next things that we really need to explore. Councilor Casper mentioned several different strategies that we will want to take a look at as we look at answering those questions, but we haven't started exploring those strategies in detail yet.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I don't know where to start. I deal with a population that is entering job market predominantly. And I see a real deficiency in their learning, in their education. And I don't mean that, I'm not knocking schools, I'm thinking what they bring to me as an employer. I see a lack of problem-solving abilities, huge. Now, whether that's because of what they've learned or it's home, I don't know. I don't know that I would look to a computer to solve that problem. I always marveled, because I worked for many years in the public school system, we would send the kids off to their daily block of computer time, computer instruction, and they'd basically move a mouse around and play a game. And I didn't see any computer learning. I just learned how to navigate on a screen with a mouse. I'm not a big fan. I'm not convinced that this is the way we'd go. I'd just as soon a kid open a book and learn how to read a dictionary and how to problem solve and find this. So that's a personal soapbox, but I just don't think the internet is, it's not a priority for me to have every kid plugged into it. I think we need to unplug a lot of people from the internet, frankly. And then as far as this net neutrality issue, I'm sorry, I don't believe anything that was said about it. Not one person lost a bit of service when the net neutrality was ending. I think it's a farcical name for just another act of socialism that says, well, you can't get anything better, so we're all going to go down the step. And I don't approve of that in any way. If I have the means, I've worked hard, I've played by the rules, and I have the means to improve something in my life, I should be able to do that. And I think that's fair. Not you get less because no one else gets what you get. I just don't agree with that concept. I will now step off my soapbox. But again, thank you very, very much. This was terrific.
Mr. Mayor?
Please.
I really, first of all, thank you so much for all your hard work. I know you've been traveling down a lot of trails to get us here. I appreciate that a lot. And to you, Ron, as well, and to Tony. I know this has been a big deal. I think Allison had her 2 cents worth in it, too. So I appreciate all that work. And what I was hoping out of this, not to take us on a different course, but what I was hoping to get out of this is that people, my first thought years ago, if we could expand broadband to Lincoln City, would be like to draw a call center, to draw more people like David Jameson to come to decide to live here and work out of his home. And so that's where my hope was for all of this. Of course, along the way, I thought students should have more accessibility. I think we're helping to do that with providing more computers in the library and the community center, but the kids have to get there. So that's the other issue. So I'm still honestly a little bit stuck in how we can, bring better paying jobs here. So it's the economic development that I'm most interested in. And I see an opportunity in the future, perhaps maybe through the urban renewal potential district for one of our areas that could be light industrial, but that's kind of where I'm stuck, so I don't know how to answer your question.
Yes.
Sure. Businesses rely heavily on the internet. It's not just kids plugging in and playing games. And when we have an influx of 3 times our population into our city, the data speeds are severely affected. And that's each consumer is having to, each business apologizes to people swiping their card because it's taking longer. And it does negatively affect our community. When there's 3 times the population all on their phones, now, your phone isn't always, you don't have to be on your phone for it to be consuming the data. There are background applications, tablets and laptops and all of those things consume that data. It simply isn't kids playing games on their phones while they're supposed to be making sandwiches. It's really negatively affecting it. And, I'm in realty now, I'm that part of it. And a lot of it's on over the internet, and it's crucial for that. And, the cities that have been able to bring in high-speed internet have found businesses just going to them for that. In any way possible that we can really have a steady stream of high-speed internet. That's the downside, is when you have all of these people consuming it, it slows it down. And so that's where I think that fiber optic, it doesn't slow down. It doesn't negatively affect that. And we're not going to be an industrial hub. We're not going to be a transportation hub. And we do have the opportunity to provide a way or an opportunity, or we can do something. And for it to just do nothing, I think, is doing a very big disservice. And training people, having people come in to train kids young, or get involved with the school, or whatever it's going to take, they're going to want to do it. Children are on the internet, and that is where they're at. And if you can show that there is a way to work that system or to be involved in that, you're talking long-term careers in whatever that is. It's data management. That's it doesn't have to be internet sales. You're talking about servers and I know a small percentage of it, but I know that there's so many different aspects of it that to me it's just the beginning of something that we can do. So I support anything that we can do for that.
And I'm going to butt in again, because I didn't finish my thought, and I rarely do. I am not against this. I was against the proposition of why, that the couple of ideas brought up why I don't agree with. I do agree completely with what you've just said, that business needs it. I would like to be on the forefront of something like that. I was just more arguing the points that were presented, and I really should just let that lie. But I do agree. I do agree that we do need to move forward with this.
My thoughts are that the children need access to function in school now. They need to access their homework and lots of other things. And so I'd like to know how underserved the children in our community are. And I'd also like to know if we have adequate infrastructure for our full-time population of 8,000, or if we have adequate infrastructure for our often 24,000. I'm wondering if this is one of those times when our infrastructure may be adequate for our full-time people, but not for our population at all times. And I'm not sure how that works, but from what Riley said, that makes sense.
Mr. Mayor, I'm pleased with the process we've gone through, and thank you, Councilor, again for, there were so many turns along the way that we could have jumped to an early conclusion. And I think we've found out a lot of information, being persistent. I agree with the recommendations. One, we need to define what underserved really means in this context, and who they are and kind of where they are. So I would endorse, going that next step. And then, the strategies of how to, maybe, solve some of those problems to get them out of the underserved category. I think just time moves on and we find out more about things. I'm a firm believer in the marketplace. People can buy it. If they really want, if the business wants it, they can buy it. So unless I hear something different, that we just can't get it to them for some reason, that we're being discriminated against, as I think originally I had that opinion that rural Oregon is discriminated against. So I'd like, options to make sure that, we have all the capabilities here, and then figure out where those leverage points are of who we need to leverage if we're missing something. But in the meantime, I'm all for plugging the underserved, because I suspect there are youth, and they're who I would like to get plugged in. And I'll put it under economic development. I think, it's educating our youth is going to bring bigger things.
If I can ask a question, and I'm sorry, I'm being really dense on this. Fiber optics the way to go. It does not exist in our city?
Again, depends on how you define it.
Well, okay, but
yes,
I'm going back
fiber
to
fiber optics exists in the city.
Okay.
Okay. Now, fiber optics from to the door, no.
So, that's
but
something
it can
that
be
purchased individually.
It could be purchased.
Okay.
But fiber optics does exist within the city.
Now, if for every person who brings in fiber optics, does that take them off the burden off of the existing system?
No,
because we've been discussing throttling and the like.
No, so you need to understand a little bit about the systems.
Yes, I do.
Tony is probably can probably better explain it than I can, but I can tell you the basics of it from my cable days. Okay, in most cable services, you have what's called a fiber backbone. That comes in to the city, and it's the main line that runs through that, through the community. But the fiber does not extend to the individual homes and in most businesses. What they do is that then they'll go through the coaxial cable from a fiber hub to the businesses, okay? And there's certain standards that these different companies will provide that gives you that combination. So, for example, the 25 up or the 25 down streaming, the 3 up is the standard, and all of them provide that. What the fiber does is it gives you greater bandwidth, it gives you greater speed, okay? But like I said, it's not all the way to each door. There is a coaxial cable from the fiber hub to the door.
So, I guess my question then is, would the casino be on this fiber optic? Would they have already run it in?
I'm going to ask Tony to come
Yeah,
up
come
here.
on up.
You're
Would you,
going to
Tony,
get me
if it's
way
okay with
into
council?
trouble before I say something
or
wrong.
We're taking too long on this.
No,
okay.
keep going.
All right.
Or else we'll have to start all over.
Yeah, because I want to wrap my head around this, and I'm not a technologically savvy guy.
No worries.
So my question is, if the casino is not using fiber optics now, if they were to run that in, and their demand, imagine, is huge, would it relieve pressure on things like Counselor Hoagland was saying, that when our population spikes, would we see a reduction or, okay.
No.
Okay.
And the casino is on fiber.
Okay.
And the city hall is on fiber, the hospital's on fiber. COSCOM provides that service.
Okay.
So I'll give you an example, or Wave, yes. I'll give you an example of MyNet. They purchase 10 gigabits of bandwidth from what's called a tier 2 or tier 1 provider. Those providers do nothing but sell bandwidth. They resell that bandwidth then on their fiber network to their customers. There's no guarantee that when you buy your 60 megabits or your 75 megabits or 100 megabits a second, you're going to get that all the time. And MyNet admits that. We'd be in the same situation, and it's the same situation the cable providers are in. I think that, and this is my personal opinion, and so I think that saying you have fiber is it's exciting, and I think say having a municipality owning their own fiber takes the control away from somebody who can raise your prices and is doing it for a profit. So there's a positive aspect to that.
Okay,
But
I'm going to stop you there. We buy it, we own it,
you own the fiber, but you're still buying service from
okay,
somebody.
All right, thank you.
So you're still beholden to somebody who is selling you that bandwidth.
All right.
And you're just reselling it to your basically constituents or consumers or however you want to call it.
Okay.
So
there would be no reduction, it wouldn't ease any problem if more of the larger companies or government entities brought fiber in?
you'd end up with the same congestion issues you have now.
Okay.
The city'd have to continue to buy more and more bandwidth to decrease those congestion issues. Because what the providers end up doing is overselling what they have. So if they have 50 gigs coming into the city, and sometimes they're hitting that limit with all the folks using the bandwidth. So what we could do is go to Charter and go to CenturyLink and say, look, you need to provide better service to the city. Will they do it? I don't know, but I think if enough voices, come to the table and say we demand better service.
So that would address the issue versus bringing in fiber?
Yes.
Okay.
And cable, they have new standards for cable internet, and cable internet is going to get faster. It's getting faster across the country. It will trickle down here eventually.
So then it would be beholden to the council then to start approaching these entities to say, because we have a contract with them, is that correct? So they're allowed to provide, so then that's our leverage of sorts. Is that right? Isn't that right?
Yes.
Okay.
I think so. I mean, that's my understanding.
Yes, basically with some limitations, and that limitation comes from federal
I just
law.
want to know which way to go, and that sounds the way to go.
I believe I try to stay out of the politics of it, but
It's not really,
but
it's
from a
numbers.
technical standpoint,
Yeah.
the capability exists within the city to provide service, and the providers can provide whatever it is that the city wants. The bandwidth is there. Charter just have to buy more bandwidth from their tier 1 provider. COSCOM is they're tier 2 provider. They have bandwidth. The bandwidth's there.
And how do we determine if let's say everything perfect world, they said, sure, we'll do it. How do we determine they're fulfilling their end of the agreement? Is that something you monitor?
No, it's something they could. I believe they could provide reports to show what they're bringing into the city and usage reports. I don't know if that's proprietary. That's beyond my understanding.
Sure.
But that information exists. I mean, they know who's using what when.
Okay.
And so.
That helps a lot.
But the infrastructure's in place, and not fiber to the doorstep, but the amount of money that would cost, and again, this is my opinion, the amount of money that would cost to take fiber to the doorstep, to bring in 100 call center jobs, where you have people making $12 to $15 an hour who still cannot afford housing that doesn't exist.
All right, well, I'll let you not step in.
So I'll stop there. But that's me as a citizen.
Right.
As a citizen of the city, I'm speaking. I don't know. It's
Okay.
There you go.
Well, no,
I'll stop.
That's perfect. Thank you. Any other questions? for Dr.
Dangerous.
But, Mr. Mayor, for anybody interested, I suggest you
I'm sorry,
read.
did you have any questions for Tony?
Oh, no, Tony's
Thanks,
wonderful.
Thank you.
appreciate it. Go ahead.
I suggest people read Thank You for Being Late, An Optimist's Guide to Thriving in the Age of Accelerations by Thomas Friedman, and explains all of this from the beginning of how it all began as circuit boards.
Well, then I guess, well, there was, from what I've heard, I think the way to go is to approach these providers. If that bandwidth is there, we have the leverage to demand more of them. That would seem the fastest and cheapest way to go. And if they can do that, you with me, Ron? You're just taking notes, okay. And then if that fails, to go further with what we've talked about tonight. Thoughts, folks? Guidance? For, I don't want it to be just my voice.
So is that something we're asking staff to look
I'm just
into?
saying, well, we were kind of kicking around, what do we want to do next? Now, that's my opinion, what would happen next, is just to
Susan
say.
had made couple of suggestions, and you made one.
Okay.
That's 3 or 4 here.
Okay, can you?
Yeah.
So the direction to staff would be,
Susan?
To determine what our underserved student population is and whether we are adequately providing for our residents or for our increased population. And I think providing adequate infrastructure for our businesses is definitely a high priority.
right, but according to what Tony said, it's here, but we need to get more bandwidth from these companies if we're
Right.
going to. So
Yeah.
that's already here. And so then the question would be, study who's underserved, and then perhaps find out how we can press our case with the companies. Does that sound fair?
And I think those were the three comments made, strategies to fill those underserved.
Yeah, and I would like to bring someone from the school district in, because if I'm hearing right that all homework is digital, well, then I'm sorry, that's wrong.
I have a student in school, and he's required to do.
Right, well, I don't know how you can do
I mean,
that.
what do
That
you have right
makes
here?
no sense to me. How do you say to someone who can't even afford this stuff, oh, this is how your homework's going to be? I would ask the school board to defend that.
Wow.
And say, that is not okay.
But, Mr. Mayor, so to keep moving,
Yeah, yeah.
that would be one of the strategies. If we identify
Yeah.
that, what's it take?
Yeah, I just don't want to let them off the hook. So, okay. Good enough, Ron? A good start? Again, thank you, Councilor
got it.
Casper. Wonderful work. Good discussion. I'm completely lost. Okay, municipal street vacation, urban renewal project, Cutler Southwest Jetty realignment.
Hello, Mayor and Council.
Hello?
This is basically, urban renewal staff is implementing a project. It is the Southwest Jetty Realignment Project in Cutler City, and it will take a currently one-way 45-degree angle to the highway street in Cutler City and basically make it safer, allow for two-way traffic, improve visibility, and help to increase redevelopment potential for a property owner there in the area. And as part of this process, we will be vacating the old portion of Jetty Avenue and moving it to a new area. And what's needed in order to accomplish this is a street vacation of the old jetty, and that would go along with a dedication of where the new street would go. So staff is requesting that you would initiate the vacation process on behalf of the Urban Renewal Agency in order to move forward with the project. Let me know if there are any questions. I know it's bureaucratic and
There is a corollary, there is a
requirement in the statutes that if you're going to do this kind of right-of-way trade, vacating one and dedicating another, you're required to submit a plat. So I think Mr. Chandler probably can authorize that application, but just, you know, we'll also have to do that.
My question, did someone else want to go first? Or? Go ahead. Okay, is the land then? Tell me what happens with the land of the vacated right-of-way.
Yeah, that would basically become private property, and those private property owners would give some of their existing property for the public right-of-way. So it's like a land swap. There's a public street now that
It's just not really clear on this map.
Okay.
It's okay, I'll follow along, just tell me.
That's, yeah, so on the map, though, the red area is the existing street that
Right.
we would be giving to a private property owner. And then the yellow part is private property that we would be putting the new street on.
Same owner?
Yes.
Okay. That
Yes.
makes a difference.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so we were just give and take with the same person.
That's right.
Okay. And then that's that triangular parcel of 3 is theirs in between the two?
Yes, that is theirs. Mhm.
Okay.
So the same property owner owns on either side of the red vacated area, so that property will go to the same owner.
Okay. Do we have to do anything, I mean, is it just value for value, like for like? Is that kind of what we're doing here, or is there?
Yeah, there would not.
Appraisals have to be made, and
Nope, we're building a public improvement project, so as part of this, there are benefits for doing the project, but there would not be any money that's exchanged.
and then how do you handle the road itself then? Do you just curb it off and the sidewalk?
That's a great question. As part of the design, there will be sidewalk built along the highway, and that would be another segment of our Head to Bay Trail. And so the sidewalk basically would block off that existing street. And then basically that sidewalk would continue to where that property's driveway is right now. And then the property owner would be responsible to do any improvements across their driveway and in front of their business, where we would be building the sidewalk along the more public portion on the highway. So a sidewalk would enclose the current street until it were redeveloped in the future.
Questions?
Mayor,
Please.
Allison, this is one of your last budgeted projects,
Yes.
so it is. Thank you.
Good, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
I move to direct staff to initiate the street vacation process for the Urban Renewal Agency's Cutler Southwest Jetty Realignment Project.
Second.
Motion is second, discussion? Hearing none, let's have a roll call, just because.
Williams?
Yes?
Anderson?
Yes.
Hoagland?
Yes.
Hinton?
Yes.
Casper?
Yes.
And Walke?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, that's it, city manager, city attorney reports. We had council goals and priorities.
2 weeks ago, on March 26th, staff presented to you some possible priorities for the upcoming year. Many of them were an extension of what we are already doing. They are included in your packet. What I did not include were a list of the other projects that we've received over time. Those would just simply continue. At the time you tabled this, to give it some more thought and to bring back any recommendations for changes, modifications, additions, deletions, and so forth. So that's where we are.
Okay, anyone want to lead off? There we go. I think the only thing I wanted to add, and I'm sorry I did not get it back to you, but we had a busy spring break. It just kicked our tail at work, so I haven't had a lot of free time. The only thing I wanted to add was any discussion about the dock. I think I brought that up briefly. That we have some kind of focus on that.
There's two options that are available on that. The mayor had asked me regarding not just simply the repair of the dock, but an expansion on that. You can identify that as as one of your priorities to work on. I have also identified that in the budget as a possible project that will be up for discussion when we meet next Monday on the use of city funds.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes,
Mr.
please.
Mayor, Ron, I like the way your communique was presented. To me, it's big topic areas. I personally scaled it down because I'd like to see some of these things accomplished and try to get away from individual jobs, but ask the question when those jobs come up, where does it fit in a goal? So, example, Mayor, the dock, rather than just throwing money, is it economic development, for example? And that, if so, then it'd be consistent with the direction. I guess for me, going through this, it was not to say that other areas don't get attention, because they do. But I think some of these things, for me, heightened, why we're even here. And we heard it even tonight with the budget interviews, housing. And so I actually prioritized your list, and to me, number one is housing. And not just the words, but actually doing something with it. I mean, we've been talking about it and doing studies and stuff. We need, this next year needs to be the year something comes out of the ground. Infrastructure, same thing with we've got our capital improvement plan with the sewer, and that's huge element. So infrastructure, economic development is a broad one, and police services were my 4 in that order. And that's not to say that emergency preparedness or Parks and Rec isn't important at all, or any of the other departments. But I think we have shown by example that we get diluted real quick and need something done.
Anyone else?
I do.
Please.
I think a lot, just a little rebuttal here with Councilor Anderson. I think a lot has been done towards housing. All of the framework's been put together. It's been a lot of hard work. And I think the next thing is builders and developers stepping up and taking advantage of that. And as far as I know, the city doesn't build houses. However, we might consider it if that's your idea as well. I just wanted to ask a question about under the police. I agree that the absolute single focus goal should be on the construction of the new building. We really ought to put a lot of focus on that. But I'm curious, and this is a question to you, City Manager, about code enforcement. And we've been talking about blight a lot as it has to do with urban renewal. I'm also concerned about the other non-urban renewal district areas. And I know that's where we put the emphasis for the code enforcement. And my question is, do we need any more emphasis? Are we doing good there? And
I think we're making progress. We can always do a little bit better. I don't know what additional resources that may be needed, but if that is a priority, then a lot of this will be where I'm going to be focusing my time and the department head's time to make sure these get done. So if you feel we need greater emphasis on code enforcement, that would be something I'd turn over to Chief Palmer and say, make it happen.
well, I don't have anything to weigh it against. I know that we have an excellent code enforcement officer now, but I haven't seen any numbers or what the progress has been, so I would need more info. And in addition to that, I know that we've been very fortunate in grabbing up police officers, but do we need is there any attention we need to retention now that we still need a couple, or are we doing all right there?
I think we have put a lot of things in place this last year that have put us in a good position, both with the hiring and retention of officers.
Okay.
So we will not lose our emphasis on that, but I don't know that that needs to be a main focus of a council priority. I think many good things have been put into place.
Okay, thank you. I have a couple more, if I might. Oh, sure. Okay. Under emergency preparation, I would like to see a plan for caches in every geographic neighborhood. That would include the funding, locations, and outreach, and how we're going to get the word out about that. And then, I'm not sure if this is appropriate here or more under the budget, so city manager, you can put it where you think it's best. But the next thing I was going to say is something under admin, which isn't on here, but to update the city's website to have a more fresher current look and to be easier to use.
To answer your question about here or the budget. So the budget has been completed. However, we are now in the process of it being reviewed. Where we know that something is a priority, the staff I'm speaking of, where we know that something is a priority for you, we will be trying to make sure that that is reflected in the budget. So if you want the budget to reflect something, then yes, it should be a part of your priorities.
Quick question, then, Ron, and I don't know if this is the appropriate location for this discussion, but PERS and the challenges we face with that, is that something we should be discussing in our goals and priorities?
You could. As you look at the financial challenges that we have, it might be on how do we address the challenges that are presented by the PERS and the continuing increases that we will see on that. We'll definitely be having some discussion on that during the budget discussions starting next week. But if that is something that you feel like we should be looking at more to find alternatives, a way of dealing with that, we can look at that.
I guess the answer I would be looking for is how much will it affect what we're discussing? Can we discuss this all day and agree, and then all of a sudden we get bit by that, and it's for naught? I mean, are we looking at that kind of amount?
Yes, yes. There are some expenses that we are dealing with that can have a big impact on everything else. PERS is one of those. In the case of PERS, we generally know what we're expecting every year. Insurance is another one of those that can affect it. We have been fortunate in keeping our insurance rate increases at a manageable level. I don't know that that will continue. Energy costs are another area that can affect the costs of things like asphalt. All of those can have an impact on what we're able to do, because most of those are outside of our control.
Right, and I get that, but I think this is a big looming one that I would
PERS
like information about before I could even decide.
Yeah, PERS is something that's going to be around for a long time, and the state just recently adopted, and I'm not prepared to go into a lot of detail, but on some, and if you recall in our audit, our portion of the debt that is owed, of the unfunded benefits that are owed, is now contained in our audits. PERS has come up with some option that may be available to cities to reduce that debt and to reduce that burden. We have not studied that well enough to know exactly how that portrays or will play out. Our intent is to have that well studied before next week when we start visiting about the budget.
I'd like to have that be part of this discussion.
Okay.
And that's it for me. Anyone else? So Ron, you just need a kind of a head nod, we're good with what we got, or motion?
Always better if there's a motion. If you'd like to add things, pass it as is, take things out. I've got a list of a few things that have been mentioned, and I can go over those with you if you want to add those to that. We can do this as we have done with the budget. We can begin by going through each of the items that are listed or that you have discussed, decide on those, and then decide on the priority as a whole. Or if you're more comfortable just reading off and then just deciding, we could do it that way either. So the items that we have listed, the first one were from Mayor Williams. There were two. There was including an extension of the Taft Dock. That would probably go under the economic development area. And then under the financial area would be a review on the options that are available to the city as a result of the PERS, the Public Employee Retirement System. Councilor Anderson, he prioritized these based on their broad priorities, and he listed 4, the first being housing as the top priority. Number 2 is the infrastructure. Number 3 is economic development. And number 4 is police service. Councilor Hoagland identified that first is a greater emphasis on code enforcement. Plan for, that we would do probably under the area of economic development, specifically in the area of blight. Under emergency preparedness, we would develop a plan for caches and where they would be located within the city. And then the third would be an update of the city webpage, which I would either put under infrastructure or economic development.
Interrupt and ask Councilor Hinton the question. On the caches, are you expecting that to be a city-financed thing and city-maintained?
I don't know. I would like partly to see if there were any grants available. There were a couple that were identified, but we missed the time. We didn't fit. But city managed, absolutely, and then to work with the neighborhoods to make sure that their supplies are in and that they're checked annually and that. So just a plan to do that, to find out what all the questions are, so we know.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I can point out that we have put 2 caches within the city budget and a possibility of more if the city council would desire. We have not identified the locations and where they would be. I would point out in this case that if you'd like to go forward, the first thing we would have to do is to develop a plan. And we've already gone to a great extent. The only area that we really haven't put together at this point is just the exact locations. But we've identified the costs associated with the cache. We've identified the items that we would put into it and how many caches you would need for a certain population. So we have gone a long ways on this already. And so adding that, we're planning on putting that within the budget discussion anyways.
Aren't there 2 existing? There's one for the school already, and wasn't there another one in existence?
Some at churches.
I remember, I forget who came forward. Was it Sue Graves? Talk to us about that. I think there's 2 already. Is that correct?
Oh, at 2 different schools, yeah.
Yeah, and they've got
Ocean
one.
Lake and
Yeah, I'm just trying to, we should be discussing how many are here already.
Sure.
Yeah, okay. But not city-owned.
And who they're for, I mean.
I think that's the other thing is,
I can't, in emergency, no, this is not yours. I mean,
that's why we need them,
yeah,
right?
I understand. I understand. Okay. I'm sorry, I interrupted. Was that the end
No,
of it?
that's fine. So like I said, we are well under our way as far as putting a plan, and if the Budget Committee approves and the City Council adopts the budget that consists of already of adding 2 caches, we would have to do this anyways.
May I ask a question?
Please.
Okay, with Councilor Anderson's suggestion of the top 4, I just have a question. Does it really matter to you if they're all priorities of the councils? Won't you continue working on all of them, or
What
would you
matters-
put more effort into another? I mean,
No, not necessarily in number 1, 2, 3, or 4. For me, the significance is what was left off. Part of what we will do with this is as I've discussed with you before, is that we'll create a matrix to provide you with our council package showing where we are, the estimated completion dates, steps that have been taken, steps that are next to be taken, and then any notes that you may need to know. So, you know, whatever you do, we're going to work towards them. For me, the biggest part is what is left off.
Well, I don't know how much time I'd want to see devoted to a teen center at this point, based on all our other priorities. I'm sure it's important at some level, but, well, if we're just talking about what, yeah, it's important. I'm just saying, if we're going to prioritize according to, like Councilor Anderson did, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, that'd be down on my list. Not that I got anything against teens.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
So I remember last budget season, we moved money for street or sidewalks and you know, creation and improvement and things like that. And, you know, I don't see it there, but, you know, is there an update on that? I mean, I thought we, you know, $350,000.
I will provide you with it.
Yeah, just, this is an update to see what's going on.
Okay, so just a motion to go with what we've got plus what we've added as a starting point? Is that what you're after?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Your motion?
I would. I move to approve the priority list and not in any priority order, and also to include the ideas offered this evening by the council.
Second.
Motion to second. Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Say, oh, I'm so sorry.
I'm trying to distinguish the difference between this memo and our two-page list. I mean, we have a tendency to continue to fall back on, you know, everything's a priority, everything's a goal. So my attempt earlier was to get you to focus on fewer, but get them done. And just as we kept adding, you know, my pet peeve, my pet project, whatever. And we'll do that through the year anyway. We know that. So, you know, I'll be voting against this motion simply because it's too big. And again, would say focus ought to be on fewer. It doesn't mean, you know, other things aren't going to get done. It just means this is the focus. And I'd go back to, I would even limit it to just housing as number one, because when you look at the amount of money we have tied up and the amount of money we're losing because of housing, I'd put all hands on deck to get a housing stock taken care of. But that's not my motion. But my emphasis here is to not let you dilute, you know, the things that really need to get done. As the city manager has said, even the two-pager, this doesn't include the day-to-day work. You know, this is all the other stuff we keep adding. So,
Ms. Casper?
Yeah, I have to concur. I have to agree with you, Mr. Anderson. Please mark that down. That housing is really, really important, and I fully support making it the top thing that we focus on. You've heard it from people today and everywhere we go, and I like the idea of 4 simple things. We know everything else has to be addressed, but if we can meet somebody on the street and say, well, what are your priorities? And, oh, well, they're housing, infrastructure, economic development, and the new police department, rattles off very easily, and people can understand it.
I'm going to disagree just a little bit, because under Parks and Rec, we're already pretty much doing that, with the exception of the teen center, I guess. That's not a big consumption of anyone's time except the new park director. Police services, we're working on a building already. The economic development, we've discussed broadband. There's not a whole lot we can do about living wage jobs, I think, as a council. The rezoning, obviously. The urban renewal toolbox, we're on that already. I don't know what we're adding that we're not already taking care of. I don't know what we're adding that we're not already taking care of. I don't know what we're adding that we're not already taking care of. I don't know what we're adding that we're not already taking care of. I don't know what we're adding that we're not already taking care of. I don't know what we're adding that we're not already taking care of. I don't know what we're adding that we're not already taking care of. I don't know what we're adding that we're not already taking care of. I don't know what we're adding that we're not already taking care of. I don't know what we're adding that we're not already taking care of. I don't know what we're adding that we're not already taking care of. I don't know what we're adding that we're not already taking care of. I don't know what we're adding that we're not already taking care of. I don't know what we're adding that we're not already taking care of. I don't know what we're adding that we're not already taking care of. I don't know what we're adding that we're not already taking care of. I don't know what we're adding that we're not already taking care of. I don't know what we're adding that we're not already taking care of. I don't know what we're
emphasis is all my point. So reduce, if you could block out those things you've just mentioned and just go with the 1, 2, 3, 4. Now you've got a clean 4-item emphasis. It doesn't mean the other things don't get done. And your point is exactly right. You know, we're already doing, working on the Taft Park and all this. So, okay, don't emphasize it now. Don't get it off this so that whenever we get asked or redirect staff, we can ask the question, does it fit one of these top 4 items? Or are we sending them off, let me pick on you, the dock. When you bring up the dock on Taft, well, I'm going to ask, where does that fit in our goals? Well, economic development, how? That kind of stuff. Then, if so, then it fits. But
okay, I
we're
guess I'm
adding to
still
a
a
long
little
list.
lost then. So there's, do my count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You want to eliminate 3, the police, we don't have to discuss the police services anymore because that's all on its own. So that takes us to 6. Parks and Rec, I think we don't have to.
See, I guess, building a $11 million building is not just happen. So,
No, I get that.
okay, so I think that needs attention, and it happens to be number 4 on my list.
Okay.
So keep it, let focus on it so it gets done.
Yeah, that's the one I'd go, okay, that cart's in motion already, but.
But by your definition, all of this is going to get done anyway. Do you know what I mean? And so
I agree.
To what extent, to what emphasis, to what percentage of force, to what percentage of time do we put on these things? And so we're saying 75% of what we want done is housing. I mean, we want 10 houses built in the next, 6 months. Do you know? I don't know. A number. A number. But that's where I'm saying, how do you quantify the emphasis over these things?
The way I would is then it gives us some guidelines. It says when we're starting to talk 6 months down the road on a new budget and, something else comes up, another citizen has got an issue or something else, it gives us ammunition to say, hey, does it fit? That's all I'm saying is, you keep your focus narrow and get it done.
By what standard?
I guess I don't understand
The
that.
housing thing. Our emphasis is housing. So what about it? Do you know what I mean? We can say that all day long, and we've been saying it for 2 years.
2?
Well,
4.
Some of us.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. But to what measure? To what standard are we talking about? And so it's, so the police building, we say, okay, it's important because it needs to get built. Fine. Economic development is important because we need to put money in this new thing so that we can build things around. Fine. Infrastructure, we need things to be upgraded and built. Fine. But the housing, and please don't misunderstand me. I want housing also.
I know you do. So, yeah, I'm trying to talk. To me, it would be you'd redirect services. And, I would turn to, it would give us ammunition to turn to Ron, turn to Mr. Apicello and say, you know what? We got to get those things, whatever's getting in the way for the villages or are soon to get 8 lots or 8 different properties that we've got ideas coming on. Those have to be on top, redirect staff to get that kind of stuff moving ahead so that we see housing coming out.
And I can see what you're talking about in this, because what we had talked about earlier today, about adding it as an agenda item, the priorities. If we do follow Councilor Anderson's guidelines here, that would be presented to us at each meeting. And we would say, okay, where are we moving on this? Where are we moving on this? And it would be fresh and in front of us constantly. I just don't want certain things eliminated from the discussion. I want them to be a part of your priorities. I don't want them to be ignored.
Mr.
But
Mayor,
I can see what you're saying, yes.
if I might add something to what Councilor Anderson mentioned at the very beginning. The priorities are the big picture items, okay? Parks and Recreation, police, economic development. All of the bullet points that you see under that are tasks associated with those. The tasks are fluid. They will come and go depending on the information that we learn and what can go into it. As they finish, you might add more things to it, or we might find that there is something we just can't do, and so that drops off. But the emphasis are on the large things. The tasks will come and go as we work to complete those. You were right, Mayor, in that I listed, most of those are things we're already working towards, okay? But there may be more, there may be less as we move down the road. So I think the point that you really want to look at is the big picture items. The tasks will come and go as we complete things or find that they can't be done.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so there's still a motion on the table. And we've beat this horse to death, so I guess, boy, I'm not sure how I'm going to vote now, because I would like to do what Councilor Anderson has said, too. Revise our motion or not, if that's what someone else will want. Or we just vote it down and start over. Is there a chance for an amendment, any desire for an amendment to that? No? Okay. Well then, since this is convoluted, let's do a quick roll call, and just so I can get everyone record clearly.
Anderson?
No.
Hoagland?
Yes.
Hinton?
Yes.
Casper?
No.
Walke?
Yes.
And Williams?
I'll go no.
It's 3-3 fails.
It failed.
Okay, so then we need a new motion, right? Maybe a new motion to include or to modify that?
Well, my motion would be to reduce this staff memo to only include as priority goals, the 4 stated police services, economic development, infrastructure, and workforce housing.
Looking for a second?
Second.
Motion second, discussion?
Can you amend it, Councilor Anderson, to housing? Versus
Yeah, I'm sorry.
There's
I just
housing
read
in
this
general.
thing. Yeah, housing.
What I want is, I just want something
Yeah.
on record that says this is not going away. I want this attached somehow to
I think
this.
all these things are important.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep.
But I like your idea of focusing, and again, with what we've talked about as an agenda item. But again, I want some assurance this isn't going away, so I don't know how to attach that.
Can we do 5, 6, 7?
You'll see them in the budget. I mean, they're going to get budgeted. I mean, so, parks will have a budget. Emergency preparedness will have a budget. So it's not like they're not there. It really is just to keep these 7 people right here focused. And that's a job.
Okay, further discussion? Hearing none, get a roll call, please.
Hoagland?
No.
Hinton?
No.
Casper?
Yes.
Walke?
Up to you, Susan.
Yeah. Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
And Anderson?
Yes.
Motion carries.
But I'm still budgeting for those other things.
Oh,
Absolutely.
I know you will.
We would expect nothing else.
Okay, well, that took way longer than I thought it would. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I had just one other item.
Please.
There is a Social Security 101 course that's open to the public and to our...
Microphone.
There is a Social Security 101 course. It's a free workshop that's provided by Social Security. It's open to the public. It's also open to you, to our staff, to, like I said, to the public. A public affairs specialist from the Social Security Administration will be here on Thursday, April 19th. She'll have 3 separate sessions, one at 9 a.m., one at 11 a.m., and one at 2 p.m., and she will be discussing things such as when are you eligible to receive retirement benefits, how does early retirement affect your benefits, do you qualify for disability survivors, spouse benefits, how do you get the most out of your benefits, and what is the future of Social Security, and when should you file for Medicare. Again, it's open to the public, and it's free. We do ask, though, however, if people are interested, that they do call the city office, so we have an idea of how many people would be attending, and it will be held in this room.
Great. Mr. Appicello?
I don't have anything except to remind you that the next item actions, if any, based on executive session. You did have an executive session, so.
Thank you. That would be our, I guess, number one would be, we've completed our employment review of City Manager Chandler, and we were pleased with his performance over the last year. We talked about strengths and weaknesses, growth opportunities, and are looking forward to having him around for another year. Anything you want to add to that, Mr. Chandler?
Thank you.
Thank you. We are very, we are, that's what I'm looking for, losing my words. We're very lucky to have you here.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that was the word I was looking for. That's not the word, but it worked.
Fortunate?
Fortunate. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. No, let's not go that far.
Some other action on the other item on the
Oh, yeah, okay. Help me.
executive session. Need to direct staff to continue negotiations with the cultural center? Is that clear enough?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm just curious if there was any specific direction for, on rent.
Help us out. You were there.
Well, I didn't hear a consensus, so I'm not sure that there was anything.
I appreciated the direction that Councilor Anderson was supporting.
So perhaps like explore flipping the rent incentive issue. Okay, got it.
Do we have to have a motion on that?
I appreciate it.
Okay, so a motion to proceed as,
With negotiations and look into opportunities to flip the rent incentive
As
issue.
we discussed in executive session.
okay.
Second.
Motion a second, discussion? I do, just briefly, this is the problem I have with executive sessions and trying to get a motion out. Is there a way you can explore how we can legally put something together before we come here and just babble?
Probably the best way to do it is for me to write it down and
I
give
would
it to
appreciate
somebody
that.
and say, does this work?
It's so tough. It's always a tough, what can we say and what can't we say?
Yeah.
So, okay, thank you. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you. Anything else on that? No. Additional comments from citizens present on any non-agenda items?
Did we have?
Did I skip something?
Was my sister's place? We're going to make a presentation or anything?
Well, but yeah, please come forward. Did we blow past something?
It wasn't on the agenda.
Yeah, it wasn't on the agenda.
Oh.
Oh, very good.
okay.
Please
All right.
introduce yourself and let us know what we're looking
As
at.
long as you were ready for this, Wade.
Hi. So I'm Michelle Gaylor. I've been here a couple times to speak to you guys, and I thank you for having me back. I am the shelter advocate, the new transitional housing program
Which organization?
advocate for my sister's place, also a certified sexual assault victims advocate, which is what I'm here to talk to you briefly about. I'll keep it very brief. But I'd first like to thank the council and the community at large for their ongoing and generous support of our organization. I could sit here and tell you stories. As a shelter advocate, this community is so generous, and just individuals, the city, everybody. It's just heartwarmingly so an abundance of donations in specific items. It's wonderful. So having said that, April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and the Women's Foundation of Oregon has put together a few items. Just it's 8 things that can't wait and 5 things every Oregonian can do to address the issue. 1 in 5 women in Oregon in their lifetime will have been or will have been sexually assaulted in some manner in their lifetime. And so we know 8 things that can't wait. Violence against women. An estimated 1 million Oregon women and girls, over half the state's female population, have experienced some form of sexual or domestic violence. This is one of the highest rates in the country. Systemic racism. Women and girls of color in Oregon experience disproportionate barriers to success, including poverty rates that are nearly twice as high as those of white women and girls. Oregon is cost of caregiving. Oregon is one of the least affordable states in the nation for child care. A year of daycare is now more expensive than annual tuition at a state university in Oregon. And I would like to concur with Councilman Hoagland. I have kids in the school system, and internet is absolutely a requirement to complete the project. I just had a daughter graduate, and I got one in kindergarten. Don't ask. But yeah, many times I voiced that, how is internet a requirement for school? So anyway, I just wanted to put my public comment in that. So barriers to reproductive health. And this is one place where our community is lacking. So hundreds of thousands of women lack access to information and services. They need to decide if, when, and how they become pregnant. Almost half of Oregon pregnancies are unintended, a rate that has barely dropped in 20 years. Wage and wealth gap. Oregon women earn between 53 and 83 cents for every dollar white men in Oregon earn. This gender wealth gap based on sum of a person's asset is even larger, approximately 35 cents on the dollar. Oregon's gender wealth gap is among the largest in the nation. Nearly a third of Oregon's women and girls are struggling to make ends meet. As a result, most cannot cover an unexpected expense of even $100 without having to sell something or borrow money. Oregon mental health. Oregon women have the highest incidence of reported depression in the country, as well as the highest rate of alcohol use. Women are almost twice as likely to attempt suicide than men, and Oregon women have higher rates of childhood trauma than the national average. And finally, public-private glass ceiling. In 2016, only one of Oregon's 39 publicly traded companies is led by a woman CEO. Several Oregon counties do not have a single woman serving in countywide office. So just 8 things that can't wait, 8 things to address, and these all with the systemic oppression is the root cause of sexual assault. And sexual assault includes sexual violence is any unwanted, forced, tricked, or coerced sexual activity, and it takes many forms, including rape, incest, date, acquaintance rape, sexual abuse, sexual harassment, unwanted sexual touching, voyeurism, as well as many other forms. So just in closing, I just want to take a couple more things. 5 things every Oregonian can do, many are already doing. Ask. In many communities, the problems explored in this report aren't even being discussed. Parents ask school leaders why there are so few girls in your daughter's STEM class, why her basketball team has worse equipment than the boys, etc. Vote. Our elected officials have a substantial impact on the public policies. Donate. This community, I can't even ask for a better community for donations. I really can't express that enough. Share. The information is not widely known, so please speak out against and for this information. And all of you have this in your the little blue packets. Finally, I'd like to invite the council, the mayor, and any other community partners. We close once a year for a shelter clean and repair that we don't have clients in for 2 weeks. And we go to our annual coalition conference in Eastern Oregon. But this year we're doing something different in that we're inviting members of the community that are partners to come in and tour our facility. Many of you haven't seen it, and we're really proud of it. A lot of times people expect sort of like a dormitory style and just different expectations, or they don't know what to expect. And we have one of the best in the state. I know this from all the people that call wanting to come to the beach and be at our shelter, but we would love for you have a little card telling you how to make that invitation individually or as a group. Please come and tour it. Like I said, I'm the shelter advocate, and I happen to live in the staff apartment there with my son. I'm very proud of it, and it's a beautiful facility. We allow pets. We have all kinds of things that many don't. And just to see what your city dollars have gone to, we've gotten a lot of money from the city and from the community, like I said. So I just want to thank you all for your time. It's been a long evening, and I appreciate you allowing me a few minutes at the end. Thank you very much, and please continue to support the survivors like you guys have been. That's
Thank
it.
you very much.
Michelle, is this the number we can reach you at?
So it's 541
Uh-huh.
994
Yep, okay.
5959, and that's 24/7. And like I said, the 10th through the 28th are our closing dates. So that first week, the 14th through the 18th, we'll be doing our cleaning, and you guys are welcome to come and volunteer or just take a tour, and we can walk you through our intake process, our eligibility criteria, and what shelter stay looks like, what the process is from start to finish. And I talk about our new transitional housing grant that we got that I'm advocate for, which is another exciting thing that I'd be happy to talk to you guys about when it hasn't been a long evening and you guys' eyes aren't glazed over from all the information. But yeah, we have some exciting help to alleviate some of the affordable housing burden, but it's scattered sites, so we're all in that fight for more affordable housing too.
So the 14th to the 18th is when
you can do the
you're
tour.
available?
But yes, anytime actually, if you guys call ahead of time, even when there's clients in, as long as we have time to let the clients know, especially if any of you are mandatory reporters, because we are non-mandatory, mandatory non-reporters. So it makes a difference if say you're in medical field or schools or whatever. But other than that, it's an open invitation. We really welcome you guys to come and tour it. Like I said, we're very proud, and people are often really surprised by what we have there for our clients. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Everybody have a
Don't
great
feel like
evening.
it has to be an annual event. You can come more often. Keep us updated.
Well, I have been for October and April. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and April is our Sexual Assault Awareness Month. And so I do, and I think you guys always give me a warm welcome and the time to speak. But and again, the community is so generous. So yeah, and if you guys have any questions, please, you can always call me at that number.
Thank you.
Thank
Appreciate
you
it
very much. Good night.
All right. Anyone else care to speak tonight? Seeing no one, we move on. Thank you for catching that. Appreciate it. Announcements or comments by City Council?
Mayor, Ron, looking for an update on the May 7th request for a work session at 3 on the police building.
Yes.
That's on?
That is on. I think I've heard from 2 of you, and nobody's objected, so we would like to meet on May 7th at 3 o'clock to discuss the police building.
Thank you.
That's all you had?
Anyone else?
Judy, did you have? I have several things. I just wanted to say thank you to Parks and Rec and the News Guard for a great job on Saturday and for their flexibility due to the winds and potential harm in the woods. We had a great celebration at the community center, and it was a great event. You did a great job. Want to thank the city staff for getting the pavers and the dedication stone all finished at the Morgan Family Stage, and we'll be having a dedication to the Morgan Family Stage in August, on August 18th. Haven't decided the time yet. That event for Arbor Day was the kickoff of Community Days. And if you find a poster around town that looks like this, it has most of the events that are associated with Community Days. It concludes with a banquet the evening of Saturday, April 21st, and you can call the Chamber of Commerce to get your tickets for that night. I want to remind people that next Monday night is our first budget hearing, and if people have comments about our budget, I hope that they will come and give us public comment. There's nothing that's more frustrating than people who complain in July about the budget that was adopted in May. You've got your opportunity next Monday night. Please come if you've got something to say. And I also want to thank the interviewees for their preparation tonight. Those were well-prepared applicants that we had. We received from the city attorney a long work list, and I'm wondering if we can set up a work session, probably late May, June sometime, but sometime if we could get a work session on the agenda to go over the city attorney's priorities. Thank you. On last Thursday, I attended 2 League of Oregon Cities trainings in Newport that were very helpful, and the attorney for the League of Oregon Cities is willing to come and give a training to our council if we can set aside some time for that. Also had a regional meeting that Councilor Hinton and Councilor Casper also attended with the changes to the League of Oregon Cities. They have a new executive director, and he's very excited about partnerships and communications with other entities and moving forward in a little different direction. It's a great resource that we need to use even more than we do.
Oh, great. Okay, well then I'll wrap this thing up. I'll wrap this up then. Do we need a motion to add an agenda item concerning the priorities, to have that presented to us each meeting? Or is that just something we can just say we would like to see that as an agenda item? We talked about...
No, I will just include the, I'm creating a matrix that'll show where everything is, and I'll just include that with your stuff.
So that each week it comes up and we will
It'll
discuss
come up,
it.
yeah, you'll have it with your council packet, so.
Perfect. That works for council? Yeah. Okay, great. And then my only announcement is I've been drafted, or I have the great honor of serving as a T-ball coach this year. Yeah, little guys and girls. We have a young gal on our team who's repeatedly told me she's the only girl on the team. And yes, I know. But on top of that, I want to say to the city manager and the Parks Department and Public Works, the glowing response to all the work that's been done on the fields. The people are so happy that their kids get to sit on nice, clean, dry benches and are protected from the wind and the rain when it comes, and so well done, and keep it up. It is much appreciated, and I think that's reflected in the growth of the league. That's why they had to put the call out for extra coaches this year, because they had more people sign up than they had coaches for. So well done. Build it and they will come, yeah? All right. Anything else? With that, may God bless you all. Whoop, you got something? God bless you all. May God bless Lincoln City. We are adjourned.
Mics are off.